is it, reverberation from the mic. So
and then he come to his fatal death in 2010, December 14th.
And still,
then,
again, so
come to his fatal
sorry
death
for the
in
loss for your family.
2010, December 14th.
Everybody we've talked to over the years, and your brother, just remembered him. Still, again, we're so sorry for somebody that could be relied on. Everybody we've talked to over the years.
After your brother's death,
remember him.
come to find out,
somebody
he was
everybody was talking
and
to guns.
after your brother's death,
Eric Holder and our own government had been running guns to the cartel, supposedly to be able to track them, but then lost track of them somehow. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, it's crazy because we're still mourning Brian. It was the freshness of mourning Brian's death was still on us, and I was sitting here watching CBS Evening News with Cheryl Atkinson, and I had no clue about any of this, how it happened. And I'm just sitting there and, watching CBS Evening News, and she was talking to this ATF guy, and I kind of got interested in John Dodson. So I'm sitting there paying attention and closely, and all of a sudden my brother's picture pops up on the screen, the death of a Border Patrol agent. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, this is much bigger than what we thought, what they're telling us. The way they said it was just, he's shot by illegal here on U.S. soil that ran back to Mexico. That's basically what they told us. And right from there, I called my sister right away. I said, you know what? I said, this is bigger than what we thought. I said, we need to get a lawyer. So find out what the hell is going on. So, and that's when all of a sudden we started reaching out to Senator Grassley, Senator Isley, and they started working on it for us.
So you see this picture of your brother pop up, and the official story that you'd been given was that he'd just been shot by somebody who was here illegally, right? Like probably during an apprehension, and then the killer had run back into Mexico, and that they were. Well, what did they tell you initially?
Well, it's funny. They're doing a memorial thing. Border Patrol was doing a memorial thing down in Arizona, and they invited us down there. It was in January, like 2 weeks after Brian got killed. So we're sitting there, and all of a sudden we got called into this room. Me and my sisters and my brother-in-law, my mom, and my stepmom, and we were there with a bunch of like high up brass officials, like the FBI guys and everything else. And we're like, what the hell? And they're trying to tell us the story, what happened, blah, blah, blah. And it was the craziest thing because my brother-in-law, which is a very political guy, he's like you. And he's like, does it have to do anything with them guns they've been running to Mexico? And they looked at us and they all shut up and zipped their lip, dude. And they said, that's enough. And they said we were all excused. So, and we still didn't know about it. And then we go back down to the room, me and my brother-in-law, and one of my police officer friends here in Michigan was with me. And next thing you know, we get the Border Patrol Union. Bonner, what's his name? Bonner. There's a couple guys, 3 guys. They pulled us in a room. They shut the door and they shut the shades. And they said, hey, what happened to your brother really didn't happen the way they're telling you. This is the Border Patrol Union. We're thinking, well, what the hell is going on here, man? This is new to us. We never experienced this before. And then, like I said, and then we got home, and then about a month later, that's when that Cheryl Atkinson report come on. So it's like right there, we're like, okay. So we started going back. Me and my sister and my brother-in-law, like, okay, did they know something and they didn't want to tell us? Were they lying to us? Are they lying to us? So,
well, and shout out to the Border Patrol Union for at least giving you somewhat of a heads up, but you guys get blindsided by this media report. And when you start to track it down and the tie to Fast and Furious, and then it becomes a big national story that your brother had been killed by a gun, right? Well, I hate to use that terminology, but the weapon that was used by the killer was tied to this gun running operation called Fast and Furious. And what happens next? When did they catch the killer? And what does the trial look like? And if you want to talk about like the stonewalling of the Obama administration and Eric Holder, just like generally, I'm just trying to lay the groundwork for everybody.
Okay. Well, I go either one first, man. Boy. Man, it's been 14 years, so I'm trying to get the dates right here before I say anything. So, but Operation Fast and Furious started by some U.S. attorneys, Dennis Burke, high up officials in ATF, Newell, McMahon, Both, and then a couple of White House security staff. Dan Restrepo, I think is his name, Kevin O'Reilly, and Greg Congesness. I think that's how you say his name, Congesness. And it started under them, so they had the legal ground for it to do it, which was wrong because Inspector General even come out later on after his report and said that was wrong, but no one's been held accountable for it. So and then Brian's killer was caught. No, they arrested him that February 12th, I want to say. It was my mom's birthday. They arrested a guy, not Victor Avila. His name was Avila, the same Avila as Victor Avila, but not the same guy. Sorry. Avila, that was running guns for the ATF. So they needed someone to fall back onto. So they arrested this guy from Mexico because the guns were found at Brian's scene were the ones that he bought through the ATF. So they needed to arrest somebody really fast. So Newell and the White House officials and the DOJ, they arrested that guy Avila from Mexico. So, but the guy that actually shot Brian, we arrested him. They got him in 2012 or 13. And then for them to extradite him, they had to ask our family. They said, hey, we can extradite him, but you got to promise not to give him the death penalty, only life in prison. So Arcelios was his name. I'm not good with Spanish names. I'm sorry. So Asario is his name. And anyways, August of last year, after they sentenced him in 2022 for life in prison, August of last year, they said that they were overturning his case because the Department of Justice violated his 5th and 6th Amendment. So, and that's where we're at today.
Okay, so just to recap what happened. So your brother is murdered, and not only do you have to deal with the grieving of losing your brother, it becomes part and really like a central part of this big national political controversy with Fast and Furious and the gun running and Eric Holder and the congressional investigations and all of that. So your family is drugged through all of this. The killer is eventually caught, and in order to extradite him, you guys had to waive the ability to seek the death penalty. Otherwise, Mexico would refuse to extradite him so that he could be tried here. Eventually, he's brought here. How long did the trial go on for, Ken?
Oh, I want to say a few months. A few months. We were down there back and forth. Me and my sister and my mom, my other sister, we were going back and forth for a few months. So you go through this trial. You get a conviction. He's sentenced to life in prison, I assume without the possibility of parole. Yes.
And right, you guys kind of understand that was the best you were going to get, and you start to move about your life. And now here we are all this time later. And when did you guys get word that the sentence was being challenged or was going to be overturned?
Just before fall of 2024.
So you get word that it's going to be overturned, or that it had been overturned.
It had been. It was accepted. It had been overturned because of the violation of his Fifth and Sixth Amendment.
So I'll let Jen rant about why we're giving illegal aliens who murder Border Patrol agents constitutional rights. I think that's a entirely different issue. So when they overturn it, is he walking around for like what is the current status? Is this dude like running around terrorizing people?
Well, no, they took him out of prison, but I think they put him in a lower prison back in Arizona, like actual county jail, till the trial starts next Monday coming up. Not this Monday, the 3rd, February 3rd. Sorry.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that, Kent. And so for your family, you guys have to relive and go through the entire just pain of reliving the death and the trial and the controversy. Because what? Because some fucking dipshit judge felt like this guy got a fair shake, an unfair shake somehow.
Yeah. We were thrown for a loop too when we heard that. We were just looking at each other like, what the hell's happening, man? Has this been the longest nightmare I ever lived in? And it's upsetting because, like you said, how did they get constitutional rights to contest that? I mean, you know what? He had that gun in his hand that night. He knew damn well what he was going to do with it. You know, if he had to. He knew damn well. So how they sitting there and saying, so they're going to retry all this again. I got to go back and sit in the courthouse now, see my brother laid out on a slab in a morgue table with bullet wounds in him, blood pouring out of him. You know, I gotta see that shit again because this guy's got more rights than my brother does. It's bullshit. Sorry for this parent.
No, I can't imagine. I am overcome with rage. Like I've got the eye twitch just thinking about how dumb we are as a country. That again, that somebody who murdered one of our Border Patrol agents, right, was tried for it, and yet we're bending over backwards. How much time, money goes into the retrial, to the appeals, to the whole nonsense. At least he's still locked up. At least they didn't just turn him loose, I guess, for now. But there's also the issue, Kent, that this is 14 years later.
Yes.
The memories are not fresh with people anymore. Your family had been moving on, trying to reclaim your lives, and now you're being dragged right back into it. I don't know how that's not considered. I'm flabbergasted.
You know, sir. You know what I'm more angry about? I'm more angry about the weapons. They supplied weapons to these guys, knowing damn well they were going to kill people on the border, even our border patrols. You know, these high up officials in D.C. and in these federal agencies, you know, they're sitting back right now. None of them got punished. None of them got fired. You know, none of them did. And it's like they're sitting there living. You know, my Christmas is ruined for the rest of my life because these jackbutts want to make decisions to say, hey, let's wake up one day and supply the Mexican cartel with thousands of AK-47s. Ridiculous.
Jen, go ahead.
Okay, so before I rant, please retweet the space. As you can see, this is super important, and we'll get into the reasons why it's important, what we can do about it. But what I would like to say is that as an illegal alien criminal, you do not have constitutional rights. I don't give a shit, and I will work against you to make sure you don't have constitutional rights. Right? This is absolutely ridiculous. How much blood has been shed by their family for our country? None. And Kent, if I'm correct, your family has a long history of military service to this country, correct?
Yes, uncles, and I still got a lot of family that are law enforcement. Still put on the badge every day, no matter what happened to my brother. They still do it for him now. So
yeah, and your nephew. Can you just tell us about your nephew real quick?
Yeah. I don't want to release his name, but yeah, he just he loved Brian, and He just woke up one day and he started going through the Border Patrol Explorer program here in Michigan, and then worked his way on up, and then got accepted into the Border Patrol Academy, and just graduated to be. It was a year last week. He graduated for the Border Patrol Academy. Now he's down at the Brian Terry Station down there in Arizona.
Yeah, and did he choose the Brian Terry Station, or
No,
was that just really
no,
random?
he chose. I think it's Del Rio, if I'm correct. Del Rio, and he chose another one, Yuma, I think it was.
So just by happenstance, the nephew of the Border Patrol agent that was killed by a US government weapon was stationed where his uncle was murdered by a cartel member. And I'd like to point out to the room that the cartel is a terrorist organization. So I'm not sure when terrorists, because this guy was a member of the cartel, right, Ken?
Yes, he worked for the cartel, the Sinaloa cartel.
Yeah, so that's a terrorist organization. Since when do terrorists have constitutional rights in the United States of America? Because they are now designated as a terrorist organization. Thank you, President Trump.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for him being in office. God bless.
Yeah,
Well,
so does oh, go ahead, Des.
it's an important point, Jen, because like we watched, and specifically the Obama and Biden administrations violate our constitutional rights like we don't have any. And yeah, here we have this motherfucker, right? Like who comes into our country illegally, working for a terrorist organization, kills one of our law enforcement, and gets more.
Yeah. Look how many violations the government did when they told us we had to wear a mask. And we did
Well,
it.
and I don't mean these people are like straight evil. Like I truly believe that the Obama administration is one of the, if not the most evil presidents that we've ever had. Do you see that as some kind of like it's just not sitting right with me that they stationed your nephew without him asking, right? Because I could see like he was like really like excited, wanted to be like his uncle, wanted to do the same beat. Oh, please put me there, right? But you're saying that's not what happened. He asked for somewhere totally different, and he just so happens to get placed at the same beat. And if I recall our conversation, you said that they purposely like put him at the Brian Terry Memorial.
Oh yeah, that's where the memorial is at. Yeah, the Brian Terry Station. The statue of Brian's there, but the memorial is over where he got killed in the desert. I think that's way west. I want to say of his station. So, because when Brian was working, he was working out of that station was called the Naco Station at the time, and then but Brian that night he got killed. He was because he was with Bortac. They were working on the Tucson station that month he was there. So. But Brian was actually out of the Tucson station when he got killed. But they named that new station down in Bisbee, Arizona, after Brian Terry.
Hardly a consolation, especially dealing with all this. So, Jim, why don't we get to Lacey, and then I'd love to get into like what we can do, who you're trying to reach, like how we can help, because it's unconscionable, Ken.
Oh, you know what? It's like I said, it's just like, but there's more to it than there's like people in DC that need to be held accountable for this. There really is. I mean, because
yeah, Ken, I was going to ask you, did you bring those names? And researchers down in the audience, I know you're down there. Please listen to the names that Ken is going to give. These are people who need to have full, like, they need to be probed with research about who they are, what they're representing, who they're getting paid by, because there are some really horrible things that Ken has had to deal with.
You know what? Like, there was Lanny Brewer. He worked for the DOJ, Department of Justice. He was a lawyer, and he got hired by a lawyer company out of California, Covington and Burrell. I think that's the name, Covington and Burrell. Then there was Dennis Burke, which was the AZ Attorney General, which orchestrated and did all the fine tuning for the ATF to do this. Dennis Burke is now, in fact, I'm gonna tell you a story real quick about that. I hate to change the subject, but when the Cheryl Atkinson story come out, he come to our house, to my mom's house, with 2 big binders. Never opened the binders. All he wanted to tell us was that the guns found at your brother's scene didn't come from Arizona. And he basically stayed another 10, 15 minutes and left. We thought that was strange. We thought that was very strange. And then there's Kenneth Nelson. He was also, I think he was at ATF. No, he worked for the Department of Justice too. And then there was Kevin O'Reilly, which was never, ever questioned by the congressional investigators. They wanted to, but the White House shut it down. Her name was Kathy Rumeller. Yeah, White House counsel shut it down. They didn't want him to answer any questions about Fast and Furious and the ties to the White House. So, and then there's, yeah, I said those names other than Greg Godreski and Dan Restrepo. Yeah, I can't pronounce his last. Restrepo. They all worked in the White House, and they never answered for any of it.
Did Barack Obama or anybody from the Obama administration ever call you guys directly, other than like, like the Border Patrol people? I'm talking like Obama himself or Biden or anybody?
Obama did at the funeral home. He actually called us, but he put on a speakerphone. There's probably like 50 people in the room when he talked to us. We only talked for a quick 2 or 3 minutes. They just, said his condolences. But I did meet with Eric Holder in person.
How did that go? You want to tell us a little bit about that?
That was lie after lie after lie after lie. He lied to my face. Bullface lied to me. Lied to my mom. Everything. He said he didn't know. He was going to find out who was responsible for Fast and Furious. He didn't care who they were. And he's going to hold them accountable. Well, you see where that went. So, didn't go well. I wasn't happy with him. And then I did a Freedom of Information Act about Eric Holder. And I got some papers back from the Freedom of Information. And that in the emails, he was telling people that I was a thorn in his side and that we need to wiretap their phones to find out what they know. So.
Whoa. Hold up. That's
Yeah,
witness intimidation.
I got those from Freedom of Information.
Witness intimidation.
Yeah,
Dustin.
me and David Cadrea. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a big gun advocate guy. So, yep.
I literally just can't. Just go ahead.
Shocking. Let's allow some of these people who wanted to ask questions. I think Lacey, you were first, then we'll go Lou, and then Matt. Good to see everybody. Repost the space, you guys. This is a story that should be told and plastered everywhere. And I think with the new administration, there's an opportunity here to finally bring light. But some of these like lasting, we've often talked about Benghazi and some of these other just unbelievable things that have happened. Fast and Furious, we still need answers on. And just think about the arrogance and evil of Eric Holder then wanting to tap the phones of the family of the murdered Border Patrol agent for daring to try to find out what happened to their brother. It's stunning. But let's go Lacey, Lou, and then Matt.
Thanks, Dustin. Hi, Ken. You probably would know who I am by face, but obviously not through Twitter, and I'm under an alias name because it's the internet. But anyways, my main question to you is, with this new administration coming in and seats still being filled, is there a possible way, or have you thought of possibly reaching out in regards to getting more files opened up to help you and your family along with seeking justice against Eric and Obama at all?
It's funny. Megyn Kelly made a statement the other day. Should the Trump administration go after Hillary Clinton and Obama for their crimes. Absolutely. They did it for him. Why not do it to them? But no, I've tried to reach out. I don't know if I should say something. I don't know. I don't know. I think I
Yeah,
told. Yeah,
Ken,
okay.
I'm not a lawyer, but if I did work in a law office, and I don't know if I'd be real careful. Like, if you don't feel comfortable in saying something, or you have the slightest hesitation right now because you don't have your lawyer on stage with you, and the space is recorded, I would just,
Yeah.
and the trial coming up, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, because I don't want to affect that. But I've talked to some people back in the previous, when Trump was in office before, and they put me in connections with President Trump and stuff like that. And I reached out to him. But now, when Biden was in office, I exhausted. I don't have any contacts to get back involved with that this administration now. So, because he's
Okay.
appointing he's appointing all these new people, and I mean, I'm at the time right now. It's like I was telling my sister the other day. It's like, I think I'm just going to grab a big billboard sign of Brian and just go down to stand in front of the White House. That's
Well,
the point.
Ken, we are going to help you out, because I know there are some really good people in this room right now. One of them, reporter McCabe, get up here if you have a minute. We need you. And there's a couple others, and Savvy will be right back. She had a phone call she had to take. But Savvy is going to be a huge part in this, especially, trying to get it to the right people. So let's, before you go do that billboard, we might be able to
Yeah.
help.
You know what, Jen? Eric Holder did exactly a privilege on these documents. And if I'm wrong, tell me. But to do executive privilege, you had to be directly involved, don't you?
Absolutely. And the fact that their go-to, right? Because Obama's go-to was to spy on Trump and to wire Trump Tower and spy on his phone calls. And Eric Holder's go-to is to wiretap you because you dare question whether the United States provided the weapon that, and this is the part I want to ask you. The guy the murderer, the piece of shit, right? He knew that that was a United States weapon that
Oh,
he was using because he was a gun runner for Fast and Furious, correct?
no, he was actually a rip crew guy that worked for the Sinaloa cartel. He was intercepted other drug loads to take back so that Sinaloa can profit off of them. So that was his job, that guy. But the Avila guy was a guy out of Arizona that was the ATF was letting buy guns and
But
track.
do you think the man who murdered Brian knew that the gun he was holding when he pulled the trigger was a United States provided gun?
He might. That's a good question. He might.
Right, because if he knew that that was a United States provided gun, because we're the ones who armed the Mexican drug cartel, then, like, how do you have constitutional rights?
Well, it's funny. He said the guns were stashed in the trial, the first trial. The guns were stashed out in the desert, and they walked across the border and knew exactly where these guns were stashed. The guns were here. The guns were they were stashed in the desert. That's what his story is.
Do you know who placed the guns there?
No, nope.
I wonder if it was the United States government.
Don't know. Don't know. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and they're just, like in Brian's first trial. I asked, I said, why ain't we asking this guy where he got the guns from? No, that's a separate. No, we don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. We're going to try to keep Fast and Furious out. It's going to harm the case. Well, guess what? Look what it did. They didn't even use it to harm the case. So my thing is, we got to get Fast and Furious into trial to bring up discovery. You bring up discovery, dude, it's going to lead the judge's going to want to know every piece of information. But then again, the judge we got in this case now, she's an Obama-appointed lawyer. I mean,
I wonder, I wish there was a lawyer in here. If you're a lawyer, get on stage.
Well, yeah, the consigliere was here a little bit. He'll be back too. But Lou, go ahead, and then we'll go Matt, and then I want to get into like I do think we're going to be able to help on this. Like this is literally our wheelhouse. So
Well,
go ahead.
I hope so, because it's putting aware on all of us. It really is. I mean, it's like we're just getting torn up by this. It's like, I think of my brother and think of this case every second of the day, and I just get angry and angry by the year. So, but you hear these stories about like George Floyd and all of this. Oh, families deserve answers. They want to know, they deserve answers why their son died. We're 14 years. They were 2 months and they got answers.
Go ahead, Lou.
Hey guys, thanks so much for allowing me to have a mic. It's very nice to meet you, Kent. I'm an Arizona resident, and I'm well aware of this case. As a matter of fact, in an off chance, I actually met your brother at a Mexican restaurant in Gila Bend, Arizona, one afternoon when I was working for the Census Bureau. And, it struck me when I saw that he was who had been killed. And so I kind of paid attention, to the story. At that time, I wasn't maybe as closely following politics, on a local level. And the one thing that bothers me about this is that they did talk about the fact that he gave this Aurelius gave a confession in the Mexican prison.
Yeah.
And then now they're saying that they were not aware of the American laws and his constitutional rights. But here's the other thing I need everybody to understand. His attorney was Adrian Fontes. And if you don't know who Adrian Fontes is, he is currently the Secretary of State for the state of Arizona. Okay. This was overturned in the 9th district, which is the federal district in Arizona. So I think that there's a lot of stuff going on maybe in the background. I do have a contact, and I sent you that name in a DM, and I also just sent him a DM telling him about this case and giving him your your account and advising him about the fact that you said that there were FOIA requests with Eric Holder talking about possibly wiretapping the family. This person is a liaison to the Department of Justice. And so I'm going to try to see if we can't push that through for somebody's eyes up there to look at this and have somebody maybe there on site. I'm so sorry that our government did this to your family. And coming from that state, knowing what we have battled, knowing how things happened during that time frame, and what people have to understand is this is the same Department of Justice that went after Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
Yep.
And sued Arizona for our SB 10 laws and all the things. And all we were trying to do as a state was keep our sovereignty as a nation and stop the Sinaloa cartel from getting their tentacles into our state. And when you think about the fact that a Sinaloa cartel killer attorney is now the Secretary of State for the state of Arizona, it is just mind-blowing how incestuous. And not only that, Adrian Fontes grew up on the border right there at Nogales. So I question even his loyalty to the U.S. government versus the cartel. But I wanted to let you know that, and I will work hard to try to continue to get that person's attention and try to get eyes on it. And I did tell him that this case was coming up next month. And so hopefully we can help you with that.
Thank you, because I didn't even know that. To be honest with you, I did not even know that. I'm glad you pointed that out. I'm writing it down right now. So thank you.
No
So,
worries.
guys, a big part of this is going to just be getting Brian's name back into the news cycle. So, as you're sitting here listening, why don't everybody go out and create an independent tweet demanding justice for Border Patrol agent Brian Terry, just to kind of get some momentum going on Twitter. And then we can follow up with the media and stuff, but it's something you guys can do immediately to just get this into like the algorithm, I guess. I don't know. I hate using that word. But yeah. And retweet the space, and Dusk, go ahead.
Well, let's kick it to Matt. Go ahead, Matt.
Kent, it's nice to meet you, and it's very sad and very infuriating what happened here. There is, sorry guys, Dustin, you caught me at a bad time, but anyway, what do you want out of this as the, I get, correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, nephew of Brian Terry?
No, it's
Brother, right?
so Brian Terry is Kent's brother, who was a Border Patrol agent who was murdered in 2010 by a member of the Mexican drug cartel who used a
Right.
weapon that was provided by Fast and Furious Eric Holder and Obama
Right.
to murder a Border Patrol agent.
So with that said, what do you want out of this? Do you want money? Do you want? No,
I'd like to have my brother back. To be honest with you, it's not about money with me. It's about, you know what, you did wrong. You know what? It's not about making it right. It's about, you know what, tell us exactly what happened. You know what? Make a public apology. ATF never publicly apologized to my family. Nothing.
So,
People need to be held accountable for this. It's not about money with me. So I make a good living now, so it's not about money. But I get what you're saying. But I want accountability and handcuffs. That's what I want. To me, that's murder.
Matt, that okay, I gotta like say something here, dude. That I don't know if you meant for it to come out like that. But I don't know if that was the best phrasing on that question right here, because obviously, like, that family is not out for money. They like I just told you, their family member, their brother, was murdered by a member of a terrorist organization on US soil as a pretty much a police officer, a border patrol agent. So, like, coming up here and asking if they want money out of this, I just feel like I have to say something. It doesn't set right with me.
my mistake. I did not mean for that to come out the way that it did. uh, oh yeah, what was I thinking? The fact that they did this, like, it honestly makes me wonder if they've done similar operations since. Were there any other similar
Yeah,
operations to this
there,
during
there,
the
there,
Obama
there
administration?
was there was another operation right before that was under Bush. He did the same operation as Fast and Furious, but it was called Wide Receiver, I believe it was, and he allowed guns to flow south. But the ATF tracked all those guns and got them all back. In Fast and Furious, they didn't track any guns. They didn't put any microchips in them, anything. So to find them, they were just letting them buy. They were letting criminals, known felons, buy hundreds of AK-47s at a time. So
Yeah,
and that's
so go ahead, Ken.
no. I was just gonna tell them you can research that because that's what they did. That's the truth there. So
Yeah, Matt, how familiar are you with Operation Fast and Furious and what happened with Eric Holder?
So I remember pretty much all the big details, like obviously the fact that Brian Terry is dead, and it was a gun running operation. I would assume to somehow track guns going over to going over to Mexico. What for? I don't know, but but I do remember the aftermath of this was, I believe they tried to hold Eric Holder in contempt or something of that nature, and the bottom line is nobody was ever held accountable for what happened in Fast and Furious because they had to protect Obama at all
yes.
costs.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Matt. I appreciate your question. Neil, jump in here. And Ken, I don't know if you remember Neil. Neil was the reporter at the time for OAN, who was down at the border wall with us. So I believe you two know each other.
Okay.
Hey, Kent, this is a story that I reported on extensively when I was at Human Events. I was the editor of the Guns and Patriots newsletter, and it was a story that I regretted having anything to do with because it was so terrible. And sometimes when you're a reporter, there are stories that you delight to participate in, but this one just made me just angry and sad at so many levels. And now to hear that these wounds have been, just can't, they say time heals all wounds, but what the frick, first of all, I just want to say how terrible it is that your family is going through this, Kent.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. But I want to give some historical context to this. The unindicted co-conspirator in the murder of Brian Carey was the Washington Post. The Washington Post had a 4-reporter team embedded in Fast and Furious. Now, the Obama administration had previously said that U.S. guns were destabilizing Mexico. That is not what was destabilizing Mexico. What was destabilizing Mexico was during the Reagan administration, the Coast Guard and DEA and the U.S. Navy shut down drug trafficking to the United States on the high seas, which forced the drug trafficking overland through Mexico, which was never coordinated with Mexico. Nobody thought to call Mexico. And I've actually read a GAO report on this whole background. And so what happened is in the 80s, we diverted all this drug traffic that was on the water to the land, and then basically and then one of the things they did, just as like deep background, is to somehow, once they realized that they had destabilized Mexico and created this, basically created this cartel problem, that's when they made the decision to move so many of our factories to Mexico. But because the idea was, if we give them jobs and we transfer our industrial base to Mexico, it will create some economic stability so people aren't involved in the drug trade. But anyway, it wasn't. But the Obama administration was selling the idea that it was U.S. guns that were unregulated and they were just flowing into Mexico and making everything crazy. To counter that, the National Rifle Association did a study, and the study said that actually the cartels are getting their guns from either raids on Mexican government armories or from crooked law enforcement and crooked soldiers who are basically just handing over the guns and selling the guns wholesale. And so that the impact of U.S. guns on the cartel to feeding the cartels was de minimis. And so now the Obama administration, with this counterpoint from the NRA starts. So the NRA story or study was the father of Fast and Furious. And so they basically went to all the gun stores and they said, don't worry about it. The ATF agents said, just sell it to whoever and don't even check. And we know that this Mexican peasant girl who's coming in to buy all these AK-47s, we know she's a straw purchaser, but it's okay. We'll give you cover. But what they were also doing is working with the Washington Post. And these 4 reporters, it was reporters, but they also had like a data reporter who focused on like statistics and things. It was like, and there was a series that the Washington Post put out called, quote, The Hidden Life of Guns. And this Hidden Life of Guns series was basically fed from their inside knowledge of being embedded with the ATF and Fast and Furious. And so that's basically what was happening. The Obama administration, because the NRA proved U.S. guns were not destabilizing Mexico, and so the Obama administration couldn't use that fact to regulate guns further, they then had to destabilize Mexico with U.S. guns so they could then go and start the regulation, restriction of gun rights in the U.S. And that's why the Washington Post wrote these stories about all those gun stores on the border. That's why the ATF agents were all there waving them through. And then they weren't planning on these guns killing Brian Terry, but it happened. They knew within 20 minutes that it was an
Oh, yeah.
ATF gun. And Holder knew before Holder arrived to meet with the families and everyone else. He knew it was an ATF gun. The Washington Post knew it was an ATF gun. They didn't even hint that it could be an ATF gun until what, March? And then in February, after Terry was killed, that's when Holder had to send Congress that letter saying, actually, I lied. Because when they first asked Holder about it, Holder didn't know it. So I don't know anything. And then
Yeah,
Holder actually had to send a letter to Congress out of a quote, abundance of caution, unquote, to basically avoid being charged with serious perjury. Now, and I know I'm just ranting right now, but in 2010, the Republicans took over the House, and but they didn't actually take over until 2011, right? And so a lot of these whistleblowers went through Grassley's office, and people have to appreciate that Senator Grassley, for all his sins, has been a patron saint of whistleblowers inside the government. And then Grassley was then able to take in all this stuff and then give it to ISA, and that's why ISA and his committee were able to do all their great work. And then I'll stick the landing here, Jen, because I know I'm ranting.
No, perfect.
Wait, Neil, you're not ranting, dude. You just gave such valuable information, right? Like, this is all the way back in 2010. Like, a lot of people, weren't paying attention to politics. This probably, I mean, no offense, Ken, but this might be the first time they're hearing about this, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
like, like you giving that backstory, right? And what I'm seeing here, and JP, I know I see you up here, and this is just me talking about a game of Minecraft, right? But like, if we have like a guy like this freaking Eric Holder dude, right, who obviously lied, and now Neil is pointing out that he had to lie in writing to Congress. They're trying to force this trial to start February 3rd. Like, I feel like they are trying to try this as like, oh, this guy had his rights taken away that he doesn't have because he's a terrorist, illegal alien murderer who probably should have gotten the death penalty. And if Mexico, you got a problem with me saying that, come get me. But I feel like, couldn't we, like, somebody file something to like put this off so they could I feel like there is another angle that could be taken here, so you're not fighting this on a constitutional rights basis that it shouldn't be.
Jen, I didn't know about the status of this case until I saw your space scheduled today. So I've been trying to get caught up on the legality of it. I'm reading the appellate court decision over the past hour here while being interrupted about 50 times. I know I was on stage earlier and I had to jump off. But honestly, I'm torn in a number of respects because I am a criminal defense attorney. I handle other areas too. But I'm reading the appellate court's decision, and my main take on this is that the Department of Justice and the U.S. Attorney's Office just flatly dropped the ball. That they screwed the shit out of this case in the way they handled it. And it's unfortunate. The way that they went down to that Mexican prison, conducted an interrogation down there, reading the story about how an attorney didn't show up, and then all of a sudden this attorney came out of nowhere, and then a confession happened. It should have never went down like that.
Okay,
They
so
should-
JP, can I stop you there real quick?
Yeah.
I have a question. So I would argue, right, and I'm not a lawyer, right, but if I'm looking at this on the basis of like my knowledge, right, I would argue that they did that on purpose. They knew damn well by sending that lawyer down to Mexico was going to be the crux that could be kicked out to get this guy, like, so that fast and furious Eric Holder in the United States government wouldn't be held to account, that it would just fall on this freaking lonesome freaking slob.
So Jen, before we go down that, JP, can you just give us, right, for those of us who haven't read the appellate decision, like what you're looking at and what the basis of the retrial and the dismissal of the sentences?
So the main basis is ineffective assistance of counsel, and the allegation is that after an attorney arrived on the scene in the Mexican prison, who they don't even really know if he really represented this guy or not, that he had an attorney, he asked for his Mexican attorney, but that one didn't show up, and then all of a sudden this new one showed up and spoke with him in private, and there's evidence that the defendant was told that his confession would not affect the overall charges and his overall case. And then a full confession happened after speaking with this Mexican attorney that seemed to come out of nowhere, that wasn't even the guy's real Mexican attorney. My problem is that as a defense attorney, the first thing I tell my clients is shut your freaking mouth. You don't say anything. If cops are asking you a question, you don't say a word. So what these U.S. attorneys should have done is extradited this guy back to the U.S., got him a decent attorney in the federal system in America, and then proceeded on that from there. But instead, they just created an entire shit show. They screwed this up, and I get what Jen is saying. It almost looks like it's so negligent that it looks like it was intentional.
Wow. Thanks for shedding light on that one. Really. Wow.
And that's the basis of the dismissal, JP?
Yeah, I mean, Sixth Amendment is right to effective counsel, and because he had such ineffective counsel, if it was counsel at all, he then gave an admission which violated his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent.
So is the confession not going to be admissible during the new trial?
Correct. No confession. Which is going to be hard, because reading the appellate, and I only read the first few pages of the appellate decision because it has the synopsis. The government has never been able to prove which person fired the gun that killed Brian Terry. There's no way they can prove it. So what the government proceeded on was like the phrase was basically like the entire group would be guilty of it because they all acted in concert on an armed robbery scheme. But absent this guy confessing to even having a gun, being there, and that's one thing that I haven't gotten to yet. I'm trying to figure out what exactly he confessed to. But if this deals with him even being there, then it's going to be difficult.
Yikes.
I'm so freaking angry right now.
Go ahead, Lou.
Yeah, I just want to add a couple of other layers onto that, especially with JP looking through that. So in the nest, I actually put a little thing about a primer. It's a Los Angeles Times article about what happened, and it's contemporaneous to the time that this occurred. It appears that there was question on whether or not these cartel members were not in fact CIs for the FBI. And that makes me wonder if there wasn't a situation where the Mexican lawyer didn't show up and then we sent a lawyer down there and, like you said, intentionally made it the way that it was, thinking that it would have been overturned a lot quicker. Possibly, I don't know. I think that there's several layers to this, and I hope that we can make enough noise that eyes will get on this to look and see exactly. We have learned from that 2010 time period to sitting here almost February of 2025 that the majority, I would say, a good bit of America now does not trust some of those agencies that were involved. And we don't, we knew that there were things going on, but now the level of corruption. And when we think about looking at the FBI as an agency that finds has a crime and then chooses the perpetrator, or finds the perpetrator, finds a person and then creates the crime. It just makes me wonder if there isn't something else there. And I might shoot this over to a mutual of all of ours that might be able to glean some additional information from the FBI side as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Lou. If you guys haven't retweeted the space, or if you have, go down and retweet it, get it back in the algorithm, please. And I'm going to go to Paul real quick. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jen. Everybody. Kent, I just want to say my condolences to your family. This was a rough time for all of us. I remember showing up at work at 5 o'clock in the morning and end up going down to Peck Canyon to surround the area to go look for your brother's murderer. And I can't really give you any more information than what's out there because our agency was, there's no nice way to say about it, but it was bad. Nobody really had any information at 5 o'clock in the morning. And just, I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry you have to revisit this. And it's the DOJ, realize none of those people were caught the day of. We spent hours after this all happened, way behind the curve, looking for these people because where it was in Peck Canyon and that area there is so remote. And we were unable to find them. And they later we found got back to Mexico, and the Mexican government, when it comes to murderers of anybody in the United States, just won't allow our people to get these people back, to bring them to justice if the death penalty's on the table. That's been a harsh reality for many, many years. And, it's heartfelt from my family to yours. But, I got nothing to say as far as that day, or nothing that'll glimmer a hope. Just to know that, Peck Canyon's been a hot spot of rip crews and that type of activity for years prior to that. And it wasn't just Peck Canyon, it was other places, and they were working at intense operations down there. And your brother being part of that ORTAC team that was down there, I know friends of his were devastated after that incident. So I hope they make this right, sir. I hope they make this right. I do, but
thank you. And you know what, you guys reminded me of something that I heard from some agents that, especially my brother, he told me and my sister one time that they were trying to find a group of bad guys out there, which was the RIP crew. They've been chasing that RIP crew for a while, but they kept getting tipped off that Brian's team was going to be out there that night. And Brian even told me and my sister right in the kitchen, he goes, we got a bad apple, keeps tipping these guys off because they know where we're at every time. So, and it was this, you're right. It was a bad time back then with the Border Patrol. I heard all kinds of stories.
Hey, Paul, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Are you retired or are you still working?
No, I got out after my first year of Biden's debacle. I had enough time.
That it's how I was going to form my question. If you were in the Kent Terry family, what would you do in this situation? Well, who would you go after?
Well, we know who I would go after because it'd be the same people he's going after. It would be the people that authorized this freaking mission to smuggle weapons into Mexico to feed a narrative that we just heard from McCabe, that I heard this before, and I heard it back in the day when it was being talked about in the Obama administration, that narrative that we've been feeding all the guns to Mexico has been going on since about, 2006, 2008. That's been a narrative that they've been pushing for a long time because the Mexicans have always blamed us for the drug problem. They don't blame themselves. They say that they're supplying a product. If you ask any of them, they're supplying a product for a demand. You'll get that from anybody down there. The problem is that nobody really was serious about winning this war. No matter what they said, no matter what they did, they never put enough resources. They never put enough, they just never did enough about it. I mean, I came up in the Border Patrol when the Border Patrol was a tiny agency and it grew exponentially, and there was problems with that growth. Movement in the Border Patrol was stymied for a long time, different ways. And it's just so much leading up to this because Tucson, Arizona, Tucson sector was always being hammered for weed. At that time, we were the number one sector getting hammered with weed, and the ports of entry have always been the more hard drugs. And now, if you see, even though the agents haven't been doing what we used to do back in the early days, is they're starting to catch backpacker groups with methamphetamine because that's the new cash crop coming up out of Mexico that people don't even talk about. And, we created that monster, in my personal opinion, by shutting off the supply of the things that people were cooking in their own homes here in the United States. And don't get me wrong, I don't think it was right that people were cooking it here in the United States. I think they should have just took them down by following those drugs from, because meth is cooked from stuff you used to be able to buy over the counter at like CVS. So, you try to fix one problem and you create others. And then, Ariano Felix was running mostly weed out of Mexico for the longest time. And then when the cocaine business started getting piped in that way, because our watchful eye of the Caribbean was better than what was happening in the land, it shifted, and then now we've got a whole nation state that's pumping as much fentanyl into Mexico to try to get it up here. So it's a sad state of affairs.
Thanks for that, Paul. Appreciate you. Dustin, do you want to just do a real quick recap for the room real quick? Because we've had a bunch of people join us, if you're available. If
Yeah,
not,
I'm happy to do it, and welcome everybody. I wish we had a better topic to go over. Not this is gut wrenching, terrible stuff. We're joined by Kent. Kent is Brian Terry's brother, the Border Patrol agent that was murdered using a weapon that was supplied through the Fast and Furious gun running operation. We've known Kent and the Terry family for a long time. They've been incredible activists on border issues. We've seen them at town halls all over the country. They were part of We Build the Wall with us, and we've really come to appreciate them as a family. They reached out because we got word that the sentence of Brian Terry's murder had been overturned and that there's a new trial happening. And for the Terry family, this is just again ripping open the wound of having to relive and relitigate and go through the entire public spectacle of this trial. And the thing that made this unique is that because it was part of the Fast and Furious operation, the Obama administration and Eric Holder both lied to the family, lied to the public, and lied to everyone about what had happened to Brian Terry. And so if you guys would repost the space and help us continue to seek word. JP was nice, right? Has been going through the appellate court's decision so we can get some information about that trial. But it's about more than just the trial for the murderer. This has deep roots in things that we still need clarity over. So many will remember that Eric Holder was the first attorney general in history to be held in contempt of Congress for stonewalling the Fast and Furious investigation by Congress, refusing to turn over documents, even after uh, the claim of executive privilege was deemed to not be legitimate. And for the family, the goal and the hope is that we, right, as this new trial happens, we cannot allow the mystery and the shrouded nature of Fast and Furious and what really happened to go forward. Um, uh, One thing I didn't know before this space that Kent revealed is that through a Freedom of Information Act request that he had filed, Eric Holder had called for and the tapping of his and his family's communications because of the questions that they were asking in relation to this. It's heart wrenching, gut wrenching stuff, and I can't tell you how appreciative we are that you reached out to us. And I speak for everyone here. We have a lot of great people, Lou and Trash and Paul and the everybody who's in here. We have a lot of people who are really well connected, who have the ability to help move the football on this thing. But for each one of us, I think it's important that we just continue to demand justice for Brian Terry and answers for the family. That right. The immediate call to action here for all of us is to just not let this go.
Yes.
Can't be
No,
something.
thank you. Because you know what? If we let it go, it's gonna continue. It's gonna continue and continue and continue, and more deaths, are going to happen. Look at all the. Can you imagine how many people got killed with them thousands and thousands of AK-47s we let down there? Can you imagine? Just months before Brian got killed, you guys can research this. There was a birthday party in Mexico. I can't remember the town, where it was a wrong drive-by shooting with AK-47s, and they killed a group of kids in a birthday party.
Dustin, can I ask Kent a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
So, Kent, have you been in touch with the NBPC, the National Border Patrol Council, the union, for the line agents like Arto Cueto and them?
I did. Ron Colburn introduced me to them guys when I was in Arizona a long time ago. And I talked to Art Del Deco a long time ago, but I tried reaching out to him, no response. Who was the other? Brandon Judd. I talked to him a couple times. I tried reaching out to him again, no response. So, and it just upsets me because they sit there and say, it's a brotherhood and honor first. But you figure the union would want to get answers and justice why this happened, so it wouldn't happen to another agent. So. But to answer your question, no, I haven't heard back from anybody. So.
And it's been a while since you talked, because I know Art's still heavily involved in the union. Brandon Judd is now the ambassador to Chile. So,
really?
Yeah, he retired and left the union life, and now he's an ambassador for the Trump administration to Chile. It was announced earlier this year. So,
but you got to understand. The last 4 years, I couldn't do nothing because I wouldn't got nothing. I would have just been, it would have been exhausting, and which it was. And I'm like, I'm not even going to try to attempt out to the Biden administration or anybody under the Biden administration because I'm just going to get a continued lie or thrown to the curb. So, but that's with this new administration. I'm hoping we can get a new investigation into everything, the Fast and Furious, why Brian died, everything. So.
When I will say, if there is something that I think we can all be encouraged by, it's that the early days of the new Trump administration has shown that they are very open to and eager for allowing and releasing this kind of information. That Trump is not protecting any of the douchebags and criminals who corrupted our government. And so I think there is a good chance with a proper public outcry which again is on every single one of you guys who is listening right now. Like, all of us have the ability to make noise about this. And if there's one thing we know about President Trump, is that if you make noise and it's the right cause, he will take the right action. And so I think it's really up to us to push this hard. Kent, I really appreciate your strength, man, coming in here and sharing the story and going through the entirety of it with us, because I think this is going to be the first step of us actually getting some of these answers about what the fuck actually happened. And pardon my French. All right, let's.
Dustin, if I let me give a summary of the legal and procedural issues as I see them here, and let me just start by saying that the main reason for this entire tragedy is that the United States government failed the people of this country and failed the members of the Border Patrol by having an open border policy that let hundreds and thousands of drug runners roam freely through the United States of America, such that brave men like Brian Terry had to be out on patrol in essentially like a paramilitary situation where there were so many armed drug dealers running around in Arizona that it was the Wild West. And that's why this situation happened, is that our government failed us. Not only did they fail us by letting the people roam freely in our country, but then they failed us on the prosecution and the investigation of this crime. So what happened on that night is that it was it was an area so filled with drug runners that not only was the area filled with people carrying backpacks of drugs, and all of them are armed, every single one of them is armed, but then there were opportunists, other Mexican cartel members or other bandits that would sit out there and wait for the drug runners and then rob and kill the drug runners. So, you're talking about total chaos and anarchy in the United States, in our territory. And Brian Terry was part of a 4-man team that was out there just trying to make get some justice and peace in this chaos. So the United States government realized that they could never prove which of the 4 men shot the gun that killed Brian Terry. So what happened is they had to proceed on what's called a felony murder strategy. And that basically says that if a group of people get together with the intent to commit a crime, and then in the process of that group crime, somebody gets killed, then all the members of that criminal group are responsible for the murder, for the death of the person. That's called a felony murder strategy. You intended to go rob a bank. We can't prove which one of you killed the security guard or the teller, but the teller was killed. So now all 4 of you are guilty. So the government knew that they could never prove which gun or which person fired the gun. So they knew that they had to proceed on the felony murder strategy, which means that the people had to proceed, the government had to proceed on the proof that these guys intended to rob drug dealers. So that's who these guys were. They were out there with AK-47s to kill and rob drug dealers who were running drugs into the United States. If you can't prove that they were out there for criminal intent, then there's no conviction for murder. In reading the appellate division the appellate decision more closely, this defendant, whose conviction was just overturned, was being interrogated by an FBI agent and an assistant U.S. attorney in a Mexican prison. And his initial story and comments prior to having counsel was that he was out there with a group of people hired by the cartel, what have you, to drop food off at locations for their people. He was saying he was not out there to do anything wrong. They were basically food delivery boys, which on its face is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that was his story, okay? It wasn't until that there was this, he said he wanted a lawyer, he wanted his lawyer didn't show up, and then all of a sudden the prison provides this quote unquote prison lawyer hours later who spoke to the defendant in private and apparently told him that it doesn't matter if what you say you were there for. They know you were there. You've admitted you were there. You can say why you were there. And that's when this defendant switched his story and said, right, we were out there to rob other drug dealers. Well, the FBI agent and the U.S. attorney knew that that was the entire premise. That was the basis of their case to get a murder conviction. But apparently it was presented to this guy in the Mexican prison that it didn't matter. You were there. They know that you were there. You've admitted you were there. It all came down to the intent on being there. So the way this interrogation was handled was completely ridiculous on the part of the U.S. government, and that's that. I hope that summarizes the legal issue for you about why it's been overturned.
Okay, so could I just? Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say you've heard us bring up the term "rip crew" several times, and it did click with me as JP was talking that for those of us who've been covering or involved in this or spent significant time on the border, rip crew is just exactly what JP just described. They are the people who kill and steal from the drug mules, right? They rip people who have already smuggled shit across. Like they rip that in order to like take the profits for themselves.
So I want to point something out. So the United States government, whose botched gun running operation, Fast and Furious, run by Eric Holder, okay, those people whose gun was used in the murder of Border Patrol agent Brian Terry, they're the ones who went and botched up the court case down in fucking Mexico. Really, I feel like with what we know now, right? If we're going on evidence of what, if he's not allowed to use his little criminal defense, oh, I was out there fucking delivering food like DoorDash, okay? Like, if he can't use that, then we get to use the fact that we know damn well that Fast and Furious was happening, and Eric Holder needs to be brought into this.
Yeah, a lot of people, all those ones in DC that orchestrated it. Like I just told you, they need to be investigated by under this administration. Put it that way.
So, JP, I mean, they literally just found out about this in October. Have they had proper time to formulate a defense in this case, or could there be a delay of trial here somehow?
There can always be a delay in trial. They I think the prosecutor is going to have to decide what he can actually achieve in a trial, and we may see a plea deal for a lesser offense with prison time offered. In exchange, we may see a plea deal come through this, but it's not going to be for murder.
Do you think that there is a chance that he could potentially walk?
There is a chance, yes.
But unbelievable, man.
Sorry,
I appreciate
Sam.
I appreciate him explaining it very well, and I'm just trying to question myself. What is there anything I should ask some prosecutors? Anything better?
We'll help you with this. So let's see. We'll get to the other hands, and then we'll come up with a game plan here. Adam, you've been. Go ahead.
Ben, how do you know these other ones that are already been sentenced ain't gonna try to pull some bullshit strings like this?
That's what I'm saying. And they had 4 guys out there, and if they were employed by the cartel, right? Like, are we sure that they aren't like confidential informants for the FBI?
It could be. It could be. I've heard that rumor, but that was a rumor I've heard. But that could be. It seems to keep showing up all the time. What you just said. So
I mean, Paul, with your experience down in that section and what you know now, would you feel comfortable? Like, do you think there is a potential chance that these guys could be somehow employed by the government, and they're just saying that they were employed by the cartel?
What I know back then, no. What I know now, God only knows. I mean, there's just too many questions that haven't been answered, and it leads back to the Obama administration. A lot of this stuff is pointed to them. All the times I've read anything about these cases or anything else, and I'll tell you right now, I was on a specialized team, not Bortac, working that whole area quite often, and not once were we ever made aware that there was an operation smuggling guns into Mexico.
Well, didn't that kind of violate your constitutional rights, being a law enforcement officer and didn't know about it? They didn't prepare you for it. They had to keep on the lookout. So,
of course, but there was a lot of things we didn't know about, and it was a weird time in the Border Patrol, because things were pushed up, overclassified or classified beyond our reach, unless we needed to be read into it, and that's that's on the agency and a lot of other things that it's too hard to explain in 5 minutes.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate that. Hey, Adam, I know you've been waiting a while, but do you mind if I let Doc just jump in here?
No, it's fine. Go right on.
Thank you, Adam. Doc, jump in here.
Hey, good morning, and to Mr. Terry. Sorry about what's happened here. I came in late, and I don't know a whole lot about it. I know that some foreign nationals have been charged in your brother's murder, convicted. And I guess the question is, can we hold the government or some agency of the government also responsible for your brother's death?
Well, so Doc, so what happened was he got life without potential of parole. In October, Kent and his family were made aware that the sentence had been overturned because two of the constitutional rights of the murderer were violated. And a new trial is starting February 3rd. But Ken, this is 14 years later. His family had exhausted so much of their resources and just getting it back into the media and the news cycle.
Sure.
And Ken and his family have been friends of Dustin and mine going back years. They were also part of We Build the Wall. So Kent and I got in touch a couple of days ago. He told me what was happening. So we are just like, I am exposing this to the world right now. And we don't even, we're all just kind of finding out things as we're going. But Kent revealed today that through a FOIA request that he did, Eric Holder, when his family started asking questions, when they started realizing that the gun used in the murder of their brother, after being told that it wasn't, it ended up, it was a Fast and Furious gun, Eric Holder called for the family to be wiretapped because they started asking questions. So that's kind of where we are right now. And then you and JP can do your little, lawyer bullshit talk and figure it out.
So I heard a little bit of what JP said, and JP does sling some of the doo-doo around at times, but not in this circumstance. There is a way to go after the government officials here. It may be a long, torturous road, and it might not be something that's financially viable for the family. So I'm hoping one of the thoughts here is that there'll be some sort of fundraising effort and aligned with what the legal possibilities might be going forward, given the new circumstances. In terms of holding others accountable for the murder, I think it is possible.
So Doc, we're just concentrating on the February 3rd right now court date, and whether what if, and this is just me, right, speculating here, but there is a lot of evidence here that things could have been done potentially on purpose in order to create things in the case that they knew would either get the case thrown out or appealed or something like that. And because and Kent, maybe you can just explain this to the room, because I think it's an important part of how the Obama administration and Eric Holder acted towards your family following the murder of your brother.
If I could just real quickly just mention what I think the legal framework for going after what you're talking about is evidence in support of a claim or a charge, whether criminal or civil. I think both are possible. One, just like the OJ case, the criminal should come before the civil because the criminal standards of guilt are higher. So if you can establish a guilty plea associated with the charge, you can thereafter bring civil charges, which will go after money. Um, Both conspiracy to commit a crime and conspiracy after the fact, in other words, knowledge of the criminal actions of someone involved, and you cover them up, don't report them to the authorities. Both are paths toward Eric Holder and anyone else, the Justice Department, that worked for them, contracted with them, was associated with them, that gave them knowledge of these alleged crimes, are potentially both criminally and civilly culpable. Now, I'm interested, and I see JP throw the 100 up there, so he probably agrees. So I'm curious along those lines. I'm not sure if there are any other legal avenues, given the circumstances as I know them right now, that would allow some sort of legally cognizable effort in defense of Mr. Terry and his family. But what that evidence is, the more you can draw a connection to and show that Holder or any one of his agents had knowledge of, participated in, or knew about after the fact that these crimes have been committed, then they are culpable, as JP said, of the same crimes. They can be charged with exactly the same crimes.
Well, so my and JP, I'll kick it to you, but I think part of this, right, there's several layers. One is the legal avenues you guys are talking about, but I also think we just need to ask Tom Homan to declassify all information related to Fast and Furious.
Yes.
I think from that level, right, it gives us a much clearer picture of what we need to chase down legally if we can just get the declassification of what the fuck actually happened.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a lot of trouble with a legal theory that what Eric Holder and Obama's group did in the gun running operation was a crime. I think that they probably, there's governmental immunity. They have the ability to do these crazy criminal, sting operations involving guns and drugs all the time. But I was thinking more on a civil liability side, where we hold companies accountable when they inject a product into the public that winds up being poisonous, toxic, dangerous, deadly. There's all the reasons. And think about it: the government intentionally inserted. I don't even know how many guns it was. I've heard tens of thousands of guns. That's what I've heard into the American populace, into this system that resulted in people carrying them into the United States. And to me, that is, that's reckless behavior that every reasonable person would understand would result in the death of people. So I think there's definitely a civil claim. The criminal side, I don't know, but there's definitely some liability here. Somebody's got to pay for this.
Okay, so, and I love you lawyers, we love our lawyers. I have to say that they tell me that. No, but we live in Donald Trump's America now, where he just militarized the southern border. He put the Marines, and he is kicking migrants out by the busload. So, in the best possible make America great again, make the Terry family at least have some justice here, great, like family, in that sphere, what can we do? Right? What is here that, like, okay, yes, we have been operating under this legal law frame of these psychopath globalists, but we don't live there no more. Right? So, like, if there is like something that we could like potentially do, even like as Dustin said, like declassify the Fast and Furious, because if you declassify the Fast and Furious like stuff associated with that, and it clearly states in there that like Brian Terry was murdered by our gun, and Eric Holder wiretapped the family, which we know, like, why would he be suggesting wiretapping the family when they started asking questions if he wasn't involved? Right? Like, I just like,
So,
we're wearing spandex, people. We can exercise rights.
and now, Trash, I'm gonna kick it to you. The last thing I'll say on this is that the danger and the threat of the murderer being let go is the impetus and motivation for them to release this like now, which is there is, and we've heard from JP, there's a very real threat that without the confession that we are not going to get a murder conviction, which means this fucking psycho could be back like on the loose, back free, and we need the Fast and Furious documents to have any chance to make sure that the Terry family.
But how do you get those documents? So even though Obama did executive privilege on them, how do you get them? He's the only one who can release them, can he?
Not so it's not on. It's not him. It's the office. So the president could declassify them, and Tom Homan can release them because they're in charge of the agencies now. And so, no, Eric Holder and Obama have no further power and ability to stonewall if President Trump and Tom Homan and I imagine Kristi Noem are willing to release these things, then we've got an opportunity. I think that's our chance. All right, Trash, go ahead.
Yeah, hey guys. Sorry I was late today, Jen. I've just not been feeling well. I've been up and down all night, not doing well. A few things. Number one, I'm going to break my cardinal rule, my cringe rule. I hate this. I don't like this rule. I can't stand this on Spaces. But I did DM Victor Avila to come in because he was part of the story as well. And he lost somebody close to him and he almost died during some of these incidents with Fast and Furious. And I hope he comes up to talk about it. That's why I invited him to come to the space. Number two, I'm in Arizona. And this is where most of this occurred, right? It was Nogales. It was, excuse me, a lot of the gun shops here, a lot of the weapon suppliers here in Arizona, both Tucson up and then to Phoenix and all the things. This, back in 2010, this is what happened. And it happened traced to this rounding up of weapons and sending them down to the Mexican, cartels, essentially. And, I think that, whoever is going to be put in charge of the ATF can start this process. And I think that if you really want to petition somebody to get this information out, it's who's going to be in charge of the ATF, whether or not they reassign it, whether they do a Project 2025 on it, whatever you want to do with it. That's where we start. And so I think Tom Homan's a great place with ICE. Sure, absolutely. But it's really going to be whoever's in charge of the ATF. And that's where it starts. So Kristi Noem, I believe ATF is under Department of Homeland Security. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe so. Does everybody know? I'm pretty sure. So that's where I would petition. I would be
100% right, Trash.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, so I would go after the ATF on this. We're not going to get anything out of the Arizona government anytime soon. We have we've got a trifecta of blue socialists in control of the government right now here in Arizona. So you're not going to get anywhere there. So it's really going to be the ATF. And I think that the ATF has a responsibility, especially like this is back in 2007, 2009, 2010. Like they have a responsibility at this point to be crystal clear about what happened. We all know Fast and Furious, what it was. We all know what it netted. And we know the losses that happened. And again, like I said, I'm breaking my number one rule, of which I cringe the most on. I really wish Victor would come up because I've had the pleasure of talking with Victor Avila when we were talking about the cartels and what was going on down there. And he was intimately involved in this. And I would really like to hear from him on this. But I think that's where we go. We go to the ATF. Excuse me. We go to the ATF. That's where the whole thing really started, and I think that most of the information's probably been done and research through there. So thanks, guys. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I was bringing Victor up. Victor has joined us. Victor, thank you for joining us. You are spoken very highly of. I appreciate you being here. Please take over.
Hey, Victor. Good to see you, my friend, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Kent. I'm glad you guys are doing this. As you guys know, what I'm listening to here is obviously the legal process and how frustrating it is with the Department of Justice, the courts ruling in the way that they have ruled in Brian Terry's case. I agree with all of you guys. This is disgusting, and where do we go from here? And I was listening to you that maybe the new head of the ATF. I like that idea, but I think ultimately it's going to be to get it into President Trump's ear. That's the one who's gonna direct either Kristi Noem or the head of the ATF, or actually the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi. That's really where you want to go. You want to go to the top here of these prosecutors. Remember, it's the prosecutors. The same thing in our case. The murder charge was dismissed. The murder charge was dismissed. So there's no one in prison for the murder of Agent Jaime Zapata as we speak, because it's the courts, it's the Department of Justice that didn't fight it on our behalf. They didn't want to take it all the way to the Supreme Court. We fought for it to be heard. It went from the that level then to the DC Circuit Court of Appeals. Then we wanted it. It went to what they call an en banc hearing, where it's several justices hear it. But then there was a petition to try to make it go to the Supreme Court, and that was denied. So we didn't have the government behind us, the government lawyers fighting for us. It always seems that they always just favored the defense attorneys, and they always ruled in their favor. So I stand with the Terry family here in their fight, because you guys are going through something similar. Now, there is an opportunity here. I understand the new trial coming up, and I don't know, are they going to include, or please let me know on this, because I don't know. Is there something known coming up on the new trial that's either going to be included or that's going to be not admitted?
The confession of this defendant is kicked out now, so there's no confession.
So the confession is what's out now. Okay.
Yeah.
So now you got to rely on all the other evidence, whether physical or circumstantial. Okay.
Correct. Right. So it's like they have to put him on the scene. They have to then infer criminal intent. That's the thing. They had to proceed on a felony murder strategy because they could not prove which of the four men shot the gun that killed Brian Terry. So they had to say that it was four men out there who were intending to rob other drug dealers. And therefore, in the process of their criminal conspiracy, someone was shot and killed. They're all responsible for the death of the person that died. So if you cannot prove the criminal intent on why they were there, then they can raise a lot of very valid defenses. I mean, if you read the synopsis of how it went down that night, it's kind of a Wild West, everybody shooting at each other, full of drug dealers. Brian Terry and his group, it was a nighttime. It was poor visibility. They were using thermal vision. They approached these guys shouting "Policia, Policia." Apparently, a gun went off, and then the gunfight ensued. So, these guys, these cartel guys, could argue self-defense theoretically.
Is somebody talking?
No, I was just.
I didn't want to interrupt anybody. Sorry.
No, that's not. Wow, that just unbelievable. our justice system. But like Victor said, we were battling this all under the Holder administration, you know, the head of DOJ and all them guys, and they didn't want to bring it to light. So then we had 4 years of Biden. This Trump's our only hope. He's our only hope.
Well,
I
go
think
ahead,
that's the
Dust.
answer, right? So clearly, this needs to be the impetus to release all of it, which is the entire Fast and Furious saga. They just top to bottom, they all needs to be fucking released. I don't know, it's hard. And I think everybody's dealing with the same thing. My blood is boiling. It's just hard for me to want to say anything at the moment. It's just stunning.
Hey, Dustin, a quick piece to share. I'm going to have to bounce if it's okay if I could jump line real quick because I've got some interesting information on this. You know, the guns popped up all over, up and down the border. You know, there were guns being bought out of trunks of cars in downtown El Paso that corresponded to the serial numbers, you know, given to the cartels. And I just wanted to call out when Trash was talking about, you know, don't count on anybody in Arizona to do anything about this. I wanted to call out Adrian Fontes. Adrian Fontes is currently the Secretary of State of Arizona, but back before he became the Maricopa County Recorder and then headed up the Maricopa County elections and then fraudulently got put into the Secretary of State office, he was a attorney representing clients with firearms and narco-terrorism cases predominantly. He defended Manuel Salas Acosta, who was accused of being the ringleader in the Fast and Furious scandal. Salas Acosta was alleged to have transferred numerous firearms to the Sinaloa cartel, some of which were linked to the killing of border agent Brian Terry. Fontes described the individuals involved in these cases as often young and in need of money rather than being part of a sophisticated criminal enterprise. This is who the Secretary of State in Arizona is, Adrian Fontes. You know, so this just shows you another angle on how corrupt the entire process is. You know, go represent one of these asshats that were responsible directly or indirectly for the murder of Agent Terry. You get rewarded to become the Maricopa County Recorder to engage in fraudulent election activities. You know, like when Martha McSally, or what was her name? McSally was running for the Senate. Adrian Fontes put pop-up voter locations in poor neighborhoods and then sent out a whole cadre of people to go out and knock door to door to get people to come out to these pop-up voting centers to vote beyond the election date, beyond the election time frame. You know, the polls closed at like 8 o'clock and these people were voting, you know, for the next day and a half. This is who the piece of shit is that as is the Secretary of State now for the state of Arizona. So this is how the Democrat machine rewards its troops, if you will. So I just wanted to share that with you because I hope that doesn't go unanswered, you know, with individuals like Adrian Fontes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it looks like I don't know if Victor's back with us or not, but the reason I wanted Victor to come up was to kind of talk about what happened here. So he lived, he was an ICE agent, he lived, and they were basically ambushed by Los Zetas drug cartel in Mexico, and it was used with guns that were captured during Fast and Furious. Like I need people to understand what this thing is, and that's why I wanted to join this, Jen. I'm sorry, Kent. Again, I'll be here, whatever you need.
Thank you.
I'm just having a tough day. I'm pretty
Oh,
sick.
that's I understand. Thank you, though. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. I'm gonna let Adam go because he's been waiting. Adam, jump in here.
Hey, no worries. Important conversation going on here with you know, people that know their stuff. I was gonna say Pam Bondi because you know, Eric Holder is was AG, right? So she would probably have access to that. It would be DOJ, if not Donald Trump.
Adam, I hate to do this to you. I have breaking news, guys.
Go for it.
So in the background, I've been texting with Matt Boyle political director over at Breitbart. He just put out a tweet and tagged Donald Trump, Elon Musk, press secretary Pam Bondi, and Team Trump. This is Donald Trump's favorite reporter. He got the first Oval Office interview with Donald Trump in 2016. So if everybody can please go up to the nest, it's the first tweet in the nest from Matt Boyle, and retweet that. And let's see if we can get some of these people in here. Go ahead, Adam.
All right, just retweeted it. Yeah. So yeah, I was saying Pam Bondi, perfect. He tagged her in it. As far as the Fast and Furious, this is something that, back in 2010, I believe it was around that time that it had happened. So like I'm very familiar with it, and did digging on it as well at that time and put it out on Facebook or whatever at social media. And one of the things was the premise is they were doing this to kind of entrap the cartel. That was their premise or statement why they were doing it, right? But it was Border Patrol that busted them. They had like a truck load of guns, in the container, and CBP essentially, stopped them. Like, hey, they searched the truck and found all the guns, and that's how Eric Holder got caught with his hands, like, in a vice, let's say. But he ended up breaking free somehow. They dropped the charges. But, those guns were used to shoot up a wedding in Mexico, as well as, my condolences, of course, to the Terry family, Kent. And,
Thank you.
yeah, and one thing I wanted to finish off by saying is now that Trump has deemed the cartels a terrorist organization, worst comes to worst, I would think possibly, if this is a possibility, if that state or whatever court lets him out for some reason, have some MPs standing by outside of the courtroom or the jail, and just take him to Gitmo. If they're designated as a terrorist organization, the military could pick him up, right? I don't know. Just an idea I'm throwing out there. Worst comes to worst. And thanks for having me up. I yield.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. And actually, Boyle put out another tweet that I'll put up in the nest that we should all retweet. Sally, I know your hand is up, or I actually can't see anybody's hand up. So
Oh,
I'm giving you,
I put it down because
but,
I didn't want to disrupt, so I put it down.
okay, perfect. Alpha, I know we talked a little bit about this. So thank you for coming and sharing this space out. Do you want to jump in on this a little bit?
Sorry, just had to get to a
Alpha?
quiet corner.
Oh.
I got, yeah, no, I had a Murphy's Law, right? I had a little one. I never thought about that last kind of Hail Mary that Adam brought up. I'm actually going to look into that because I'm curious. When you listen to Victor's story and you listen to the story of Brian and what the Terry family is going through, and you're just like, how is this even the case in our country? But I think someone kind of explained, you're looking at things that happened under Eric Holder and these other people. And now with Bondi, the Trump administration, them going, that brings new life to this. There's the same way our judicial system has been weaponized to protect the dangerous and the corrupt. There's also a lot of laws that people don't know about that also create other creative ways to go after the criminals. And I think we're seeing an administration that's in there that's going to use this as a way to, have a legitimate case against somebody. So I would just tell everybody that, I listen, a confession like that is a gut punch to have taken from you. Like by no means am I trying to minimize that. Like that's a big deal. But at the same time, like I said, we just got to have confidence in these people, and then just keep this family in prayers and prayers for the people involved, and see how this plays out.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, we listen. We have a lot, and thank you guys, everybody who came in, everybody reposting the space and helping put the work in on this. And Matt Boyle, shout out to him for being willing to share it out to his network. Listen, we're going to ramp up the media, and let's just work on some of the messaging, which is fast and furious disclosure, which is I think the best thing that we can do for the case, the best thing that we can do to get the family answers is literally just releasing what the government has as it relates to Fast and Furious. I don't give a shit which agency it is, which is this went all the way up. We know that it went all the way up to the Attorney General and Eric Holder. And so every step along the way, whether it's Border Patrol, whether it's ATF, whether it's the U.S. attorneys, all of it just needs to be disclosed. And again, I think this fits with the broader theme of the Trump administration. And I know that President Trump, I guarantee you, we can go find President Trump tweets on Fast and Furious from the time. And right, if somebody wants to find that, I'll probably get a bunch of good action. Whoever like finds it and retweets it first. But I remember President Donald Trump talking about Fast and Furious at the time because I was intimately involved in the contempt of Congress charge against Eric Holder when he stonewalled on this thing with the Tea Party caucus. And like I think that's the first time that I met Kent and the rest of the Terry family. And these guys are going through it. But again, I think it fits the theme. And there's there's not a lot we can do to help the prosecutors beyond just getting all of the information out, which, by the way, who knows where that information is going to lead, right? Like
You're right.
Dustin, I was thinking about my prior comments, and I'm gonna pose this as a question because I'm really not sure because I know the files are sealed, but is it accurate that the Eric Holder Obama Justice Department engaged in the Fast and Furious plot to basically erode our constitutional Second Amendment rights? Because it's one thing to have like the DEA engage in drug dealing to catch a big drug dealer, or engage in gun running to catch the big gun dealers and bad people. But it's my understanding that the core intent of Fast and Furious was to create so much violence and chaos that they could make a better pitch for gun control and gun confiscation. Am I wrong in that?
That's what Alex Jones' theory was at the time. He was putting that on blast. Yes, I listened to Alex Jones back in the day. I stopped watching him though because I thought he was a madman trying to incite, something. But regardless, he was,
real quick, Adam, I'm sorry to cut you off on this, but shout out to Randall because of course there is a Donald Trump tweet. This is from 9/1/2011. Make no mistake, Fast and Furious goes all the way to the White House. So
well, hold on a second. Hold on a second,
that?
Dust. There's an even better one. Hold on, there's an even better one. Right before that, Fast and Furious directly resulted in the death of U.S. agent Brian Terry. Sad! Exclamation point. Thank you, trash.
This can be the tip of the spear of the narrative when Trump goes after the cartels. Eventually, the military's down there to go after them and into Mexico. This could be the perfect justification, legal and otherwise, to go ahead and follow up on that. There's no statute of limitations on murder.
No, and shout out to Randall. You guys finding the Trump tweets. There's always a Trump tweet, and this is like right. It's crazy how often Donald Trump was like ahead of this stuff. But the good news is this also gives us like an immediate call to action, which is let's make sure that Dan Scavino and whoever else is helping monitor President Trump's Twitter account sees that all of a sudden there is a lot of activity, sir, around your Fast and Furious tweets from 2011. They seem to have dug them up, and they're getting a lot of action. And there's this tweet from Matt Boyle about the Terry family and what's happening with this trial and a demand for Fast and Furious disclosure. Let's they're up on the jumbotron. Let's hit those and hit them hard. Like, take 10 freaking seconds and go like, retweet, and add a comment so that, right, it's a great way to get directly into the eyes of the people who are surrounding the president. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, so I just want to point out, and sorry, Ken, I hate to
No.
put it like this, but so on the Donald Trump tweet from 6/21/12, where it says Fast and Furious directly resulted in the death of U.S. agent Brian Terry Sad. That has under it when I just put it up there, it had under 25 likes, and like there was like I think like 35 retweets. So this is like one of the like lowest numbers. So if this tweet all of a sudden gets and Trump admits it right in the tweet that Fast and Furious directly resulted in the death of US agent Brian Terry, and that tweet is still up.
What account was that? Because I'm not seeing it. So maybe
At real Donald
Yeah,
Trump.
his great check account. It's up top. It's the second one from the left. I found it, and I was like, "Holy s!"
you know what? I went to a rally here in 2022 for him, and me and my wife were standing there. I was just wearing a Brian Terry t-shirt, hoodie, and but I was set way back. There's no way he could have seen me. But all of a sudden, he brought it up. He said, "We are joined here today by the brother of slain Border Patrol." I'm like, my wife looked at me. I'm like, how in the hell he knew I was even here? So he knew.
That's the Don, baby. That's the Don. that's our guy.
Yeah,
man.
I'll send you the video, Jen. It was on the news and everything. So, but I
For sure, please do, because we can also use that, and American Mission can put some ad dollars behind some of these tweets that we put out to try to gain more traction on this story. Because I really think we could have an impact on this, and it also could have a huge impact on Eric Holder and some of these people that Donald Trump wants to hold accountable.
Well,
it could have an impact on Arizona politics too.
Yeah, it can, and so that's why I'm interested. But I also want to be clear about something. I don't know if you guys watch this. There was a mini series or a movie. I can't remember if it was a mini series or a movie on I don't know, one of the streaming services, whatever. And it was about Uber, and they tried to glorify Eric Holder as coming in as this hard-nosed independent consultant that can shape up the company, and he's coming in with his team, and he's going to be hard-nosed, and we need to worry about his audit and what he finds that we're going to have to deal with, and he's this big bad guy. They tried astroturfing him the last 2 or 3 years. I was wondering why. I didn't really understand it at the time. I was like, why are we trying to astroturf Eric Holder? Like, I know who he is. We all know who he is. Why are they trying to do it? And I'm curious. I'm just curious. Anyway, sorry.
Mr. Fast and Furious himself. That's what I call him, Mr. Fast and Furious.
Yeah, well, he's not so fast, not so furious. He's actually a piece of shit. But yeah, I agree.
So, Dust, I don't see any hands. Do you see hands, or JP?
I think Sunlight's got a hand up. I can see it, Jen.
Yeah,
Yep.
I had my hand up, but I wanted first and foremost to congratulate both you, Jen and Dustin, on your anniversary. I saw that post the other day, so
Thank you. Appreciate
two of
that.
my favorite Spaces hosts, along with Mr. Trash Discourse, in the room at the same time. I don't know that that's supposed to happen anymore. We have to limit the talent pool, spread it out. But I wanted to just call out, the thing that was the most annoying was how they just manicured and attempted to, maintain this narrative and image of Obama as, the cleanest and the most honest, transparent administration ever, and how they took this murder of Mr. Terry and just swept it under the carpet. It just reminds me of that scene from clear and present danger. When Jack Ryan's in the president office and says he's going to testify, you're not going to do that,
Yep.
Jack. You got a chip in the big game, right? It's like this constant stuff. And then they stroke Adrian Fontes and all these other players, that ancillary players that helped with the cover up. They all get moved up in the machine. And now you got Adrian Fontes as the Secretary of State of Arizona. It just drives you nuts, because I remember at the time, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Trash, but I believe that the U.S. Prosecutor's Office in Arizona, in Phoenix, in order to try to appear to be, I guess, objective, they punted. They didn't take up anything, and I think they went to I want to say San Diego or Sacramento. They went to one of the other U.S. attorneys' offices in order to take up the issue, in order to give the appearance that they were not biased or had any skin in the game or anything like that, or were going to assist in the cover up. So, it's this constant, you see where Trump fires the 12 inspector generals. We're relying on a division of the federal government to police itself. Does that make any sense? It's the same thing that happened with the Terry case. They punted Arizona to another state attorney's office in order to give the appearance that they're going to do a thorough, 100% thorough and objective review of the facts and follow the facts wherever they may lead. And of course, it's all bullshit. It was all part of the cover up, and lift the carpet, sweep it underneath there. And,
Yep.
the old Potomac two-step, right, from Jack Ryan in clear and present danger. We're just sick of it.
So it's Arizona. This has always been our problem, right? We were the McCain state during that time, right? So it was like the squishiest of squishiest states. It was like, well, we're going to pretend to be Republican, we're going to pretend to be Democrat, we're really just part of the machine. That's really all Arizona is. And of course, we're going to punt because we want the machine to keep ginning and keep turning. And that was the entire premise and the entire point. And now we are in a serious problem because these same squishes that were in control of our elections commissions and in control of board of supervisors and control of county recorders, these were all fake. They're not fake Republican or Democrat. They're just, I don't know, purple squish garbage. And so, yeah, that's completely clear about what Arizona has been, and it has been for some time. And I'm still trying to recenter. I had a lot of work to do. I'll try to figure out how to get Arizona back on track, because like we had some national things we had to deal with. But yeah, it's the epitome of the machine and laziness of the West Coast converge on Arizona. That's just kind of what we are.
Yeah, and it just makes you sick, Trash, when you see the fast track, right? So Maricopa County, Katie Hobbs, Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs, Governor, Katie Hobbs, Adrian Fontes, Maricopa County, Secretary of State. So who do you think they're grooming to be the next governor of the state of Arizona? And a guy who wants to defend narco terrorists and individuals involved with the Sinaloa cartel in this murder of Brian Terry. As well, we need to understand, that they come from debilitated neighborhoods, and they don't have the same advantages as everybody else. This sob story kind of crap. I mean, it just, we got to focus this on Adrian Fontes too, man.
So I put out a tweet. I put out a tweet last night. Like I said, I've been sick, so I've been up and down. It was like 2:00 in the morning, and I'm watching this series on Amazon called Mobsters, and one of them specifically really stood out to me. And it was on this guy out of New Orleans. He was a mob guy out of New Orleans. And this is around the time of, Lee Harvey Oswald and JFK and all things. Anyway, I don't want to get too down far the rabbit hole. But I put out a tweet. I said, what was once the mob is now the cartels that control DC. And it's actually true. So that's actually true. So where the mob had power, now the cartels have power. And if you want to centralize control over a state, I would look no further than Arizona. New Mexico's probably on that list. Texas seems to be resisting. Am I hearing a smoke alarm beep? But ultimately, like it's really what was controlling our politics was the mob for years during our quote unquote golden age is now the cartels, and Arizona is probably the epitome of this. And so this is why I focus on a lot of this. It's for my own reasons, but I'm here for Kent and his family. But I just wanted to say that yes, I fully recognize, and there's a reason we call her Cartel Katie. Okay, there's a reason we call her that.
Well, it's
I hear that too.
the Adrian Fontes stuff is unfreaking believable. And shout out to Lou and then Sunlight for bringing that up. I was not aware of that before the space, but it's stunning. I do want to just inject a little optimism. So one thing that I know about President Trump is that he is not bullshitting when it comes to his compassion for these families. And it's not just the Terry family, but you've heard Kent talk about like getting shouted out. When if there's one request that has always been like guaranteed to get across the line, it was if like we had several angel families reach out to us and say, you know, we're not able to get to President Trump. If you bring those people forward, Donald Trump has always gone out of his way to recognize and be there for and do everything in his power to help the people who have been victimized this way, the families. And so I cannot stress enough, if you go up on the Jumbotron, the last, like the 4 or 5 tweets, there's 2 from Matt Boyle, there's 1 from President Trump. I should have just put the other Trump one up instead of like mine, but I'm clout chasing. Try and get the monetization. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. Right? But all 5 of those like need your immediate attention. If Donald Trump sees this, we may just end up with full Fast and Furious disclosure, which I have zero doubt, by the way, would be unbelievable. Like even for us hardened people have researched and looked and dug into all this stuff, we will be stunned by what the plot there was. Because JP, your question earlier, like whether or not they really did intend and do Fast and Furious as a avenue to try to take down our Second Amendment rights is so spot on. It's terrifying. And McCabe, if you guys weren't here earlier, our friend Neil McCabe, the intrepid reporter from everywhere, laid it out. Like there was the Washington Post was embedded with Fast and Furious because the entire purpose was to make this claim that American guns were destabilizing Mexico. And so that was one of the avenues, PR wise, that they were pushing while they were making what I believe was the hardest push we faced in our lifetime, to get rid of the Second Amendment and to pass like gun grabbing legislation. And I remember because I organized, it's probably the largest at that point. It was the largest thing I'd ever organized, the Day of Resistance, where we had armed people show up to protest at their capitals and cities in like 120 plus locations. And I remember because everyone was like, Dusty, you can't tell people to come bring their guns and have an event. It's going to be so dangerous. And my argument was there was no safer place on earth than a gathering of gun owners, like legal gun owners. You're not going to find a safer place in the world than that. But there was this concerted effort, and I believe Fast and Furious was a big part of it. And full disclosure, I think, would lead us to find that's exactly what this was and what happened. And all of the branches that have come after that, all of the other like just tentacles of this wicked plot have spurned, and including the death of Brian Terry, which it is stunning that there is always a Donald Trump tweet for everything, though. It really is. So get up there and make sure you guys Drop comments like full algorithm push. Like it, retweet it, and leave a reply demanding justice for Brian Terry and the disclosure for Fast and Furious. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, I mean, in a time where all of these people, right? Trump wants to expose the deep state, and clearly McCabe laid it out of like how the Washington Post, once again, right, was running interference. They had people embedded, right? It goes back to all the mass shootings where they were known to the FBI. The FBI knew who these guys were, right? And I just think they're because of the actions of Eric Holder, uh, following the death of Brian Terry and them, trying to lead down these different avenues. Oh, it's not the gun. It is the gun. It is Mexican. It's not Mexican. It's this. It's that. Oh, by the way, it was a U.S. provided weapon. Um, all of these things really point to they needed to cover this up, right? Because it would have fully exposed them to the American people that they were really running a gun running operation. And let's not forget, this is not the only gun running operation they were running. Look at Benghazi. The reason the embassy was overrun is because they couldn't call in the CIA annex that was a mile and a half down the road because they were running guns from Libya into Syria to arm the
Yep.
Syrian rebels, and they couldn't let that be exposed. So, once again, here we have the United States government running guns, covering up running guns at the expense of the lives of Americans. And I don't see how, and obviously, like I do see, right? Because I just lived through the past 4 years, but I'd like to think that we would be able to do something differently here. That this guy, who is at the least a member of the Sinaloa cartel, right? At the worst, I would venture to say that he might have been known to the FBI or the CIA or somebody like that, or the Justice Department. Right now, known because he's such like it was a thug killer, or known because he was on the payroll um, of maybe the US government. And when this went down and y'all started, asking questions to be like, we're hearing a little bit of rumors that my brother might have been murdered by one of your weapons. Eric Holder's response in all of this was not to call you and tell you, oh no, it was to secretly say, which has now come out in FOIA request, that we need to wiretap the Terry family because they're asking way too many questions and we can't let that evidence out.
And he also called me a thorn in his side.
And a thorn in his side because he was trying to find out what happened to his brother. Right? So who is this piece of shit fucking Mexican drug lord fucking cartel member gonna walk into a United States court where my family, Kent's family, Dustin's family, Lou's family, a whole bunch of families have all put blood and sacrifice into this nation, into our court system, where we just stomped a mud hole in the Soros aligned, Obama aligned court system. And this piece of shit is going to walk up in here and be like, hey, I'm here. I get to throw out my confession because, oh, by the way, the trial or the confession wasn't done properly in a foreign country by US government officials who, by the way, that it was their gun who was used in this. So in all of this, this fucking piece of shit, illegal alien criminal, is going to walk into our court system that we, the people, run and be like, oh, we get a new trial here and I get to throw out my confession. Everything's overturned and now I have the potential to walk scot-free back into America under Donald Trump and Tom Holman's America. Go Fuck yourself,
Tell
bro.
Tom that.
You haven't met us
Tell
yet.
Tom that. Tell Tom that. Walk back into Tom's America. You know, like now, if they go back to trial, like say they're going back to trial, and they threw the murder charge out or confession out, is this guy can walk with time already served? That's my question. Can he walk with time already served?
JP.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you're looking at the possibility of a full acquittal here. Without that confession, listen, I just started reading this case today, and really the appellate decision is the extent of it and some news stories. I don't know the full extent of the evidence that the federal prosecutor has down there on this case. He's got a decision to make. Can he prove beyond a reasonable doubt any of the crimes that are necessary that he wants to charge this guy with in a trial? And, when prosecutors start to feel like they can't win a case, that's when they offer sweetheart plea deals. And this guy's been in jail for a while, so, it's very possible he could walk.
Well, and I'd like to point out that in this grand scheme cooked up by the Eric Holder Justice Department, there were 4 guys in the area, and they've never actually been able to pin who pulled the trigger.
Yeah. I always wondered that.
And this guy's confession, so the only thing sticking this case right now, because 4 guys, are they going to talk? Do they even speak English? Because I remember in the Grant Ronenbach case, after Grant's killer, who killed him point blank in a gas station in Arizona, his killer, they tried to argue because he had a 5th grade education level in Mexico, even though in the US he was running a real estate firm or whatever, and he also was employed by the Mexican drug cartel, which is a terrorist organization. They tried to argue that he wasn't mentally competent. Oh, and by the way, 8 times deported and held a pregnant lady at gunpoint. They tried to argue that that guy wasn't mentally competent to stand trial because he had a 5th grade education level. This is the state of our court system. And the fact that he served time, one of the things that's sticking the case is his confession originally. That's been thrown out. There's no eyes on this, and up until this point, like, people really didn't know what was going on. They're bum rushing you into a February 3rd court date, before I would argue, just as a normal everyday citizen, I'm not a lawyer, right? That you haven't had the proper amount of time to actually like bring a case that would be like viable against the DOJ, who what has a 99.6% conviction rate, right? Like, I just something is so off here, and this could set huge precedent, especially when, because of the FOIA you have, right, where it shows that Eric Holder called you a thorn in his side, and that y'all needed to be wiretapped because you were asking too many questions about the Fast and Furious weapon that killed your brother. I think that they could be implemented in all this. And if they're bum rushing you into this February 3rd court date, that could be in jeopardy if it's not argued properly.
That's what I'm saying. Should I reach out to the prosecutors and ask them a damn good question? That because I'm not a legal guy, you know what I'm saying? I'm a heavy equipment operator. So, but I don't know how to word it to ask them. Like, hey, you guys fumbled? Should I just come out and say you guys fumbled and effed up?
Yeah, I can't. I think you just need to ask them straight. Like, be honest with me. Like, are you going to be able to get a conviction? Like, is this case viable? And is there something or information from any of the branches of government that we could get released that would be helpful to you prosecuting this case?
Guys, hi. Listen, I'm going to step in. I'm rude. I don't do this. You guys know this. I know space etiquette. You guys, we've all done spaces for a long time. You know this. I'm not trying to be rude. I need you to hear this for a second because I'm telling you, I was talking about this I don't know, a year and a half ago, whatever it was. I need you to go look at the Charles McGonigal case. Charles McGonigal was the SAC chief of one of the second largest FBI office in the country. He was also in charge of the cyber security, task force within the FBI. Okay. He was arrested. He was arraigned by DOJ just before Russia went into Ukraine. So 2022, I think, maybe it was 2023. I can't remember. Charles McGonigal was the SAC chief of the FBI office in New York, which is the second largest FBI office in the world, in the country. Why was he arrested? Just bear with me, guys, just for a second. During this same time frame, he was working with the Albanian prime minister, taking cash payments, taking bribes as SAC chief, as one of the second largest FBI offices in the country. He was taking him from this Albanian prime minister to feed him information, so on and so forth. Albania at the time, they were feeding, basically, China wanted to feed in energy into this region through Albania. And what they wanted to do was they wanted to feed energy into that country. The deal that was made, not only on top of Charles McGonigal that was receiving these cash payments of several $100,000, probably millions, who knows, but at least there's several $100,000 on record. One of the things that China wanted to do was then also make a deal with the Sinaloa cartel. And what they did was basically the brother of the head of the Sinaloa cartel owned a contracting company. And what he wanted to do was he was there to basically build and rebuild and do reconstruction after any war efforts or build a pipeline. And he was also given grants and contracts within Mexico. The deal that was also made was that Chinese fentanyl would be fed through the Sinaloa cartel. This is during this time. You can go look at it yourself. I've talked about it myself. I've talked about this many times, but I was looking at like Hunter Biden and Burisma. I wasn't looking at Fast and Furious, and I should have been, because the connection between the Sinaloa cartel, the fentanyl that's going across the border, the open border policy, the Fast and Furious policy, the arming of the cartels, it was all connected. And this is why they shut up and they stopped talking about the Charles McGonigal case. You guys need to go look it up. It's McGonigal, Charles McGonigal. Go look it up yourself. You can look at the court filings. And I'm telling you, during this time, what ended up happening was we weaponized the cartels through the DOJ. That created the opportunity for law enforcement, for our Department of Homeland Security, for ICE, for the border agents. That was a law enforcement initiative. What it also created was a drug crisis in this country. By creating that drug crisis, we have, cessation of the American public, so on and so forth. Just look, if you guys want to look at some more stuff that you probably haven't considered, I'm just going to tell you, go look at the Charles McGonigal case. Go look at that DOJ filing. And if you read through it, you're going to see something in there, I think, in my opinion, that's going to tie this together. I'm going to go look at it myself. But the Sinaloa cartel was 100% included in this case through an Albanian prime minister, because China wanted to put a energy pipeline through Albania. And they also supplied the Sinaloa cartel with cheap Chinese fentanyl. It's all related. That's why they don't want you looking at it. Look, dude, you guys know I'm not a conspiracy theorist. You guys know I don't tie shit together. Okay, go ahead.
No, you're good, Trash.
Trash. How do you say that guy's last name again? How do you
Charles
spell it?
McGonigal? Yeah, so Charles McGonigal, McGonigal, Charles McGonigal. He was the SAC chief of the counterterrorism unit in New York of the FBI, the second largest FBI office in the country.
Okay, I'm going to research that when we get off here.
You need to go look at it.
Yeah, I will.
Please.
All right, Sally, jump in here, and then we'll go to Kim, or Lou, and then Kim.
So I just posted something down below in the purple pill. There was something from Mike Benz, and he said, let's see real quick what he said. He says, can we be real for a second? The Zetas cartel in Mexico were stealing billions of dollars of of U.S. oil wealth on Mexican land, and that's why Fast and Furious was running guns to the Sinaloa cartel, so the Sinaloas could militarily protect the Houston energy mafia's investment. So, and then there was another one that I posted that's just put down below for you guys to reference. There was the DOJ announces conditional settlement agreement to begin to produce additional documents related to Operation Fast and Furious. So there was an oversight to the oversight committee. So there was an oversight committee. So there's places where we can start trying to get documents and information from. Just wanted to let you guys know that.
Awesome. Thank you, Sally. Who wanted to jump in?
Lou, I see Lou has her hand up.
Lou.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and say a couple of things. So there were several things happening in the state of Arizona at the same time that this gunfight happened. So the gunfight happened December 15th, 2010. If you remember correctly, January 8th, 2011, Congresswoman Gabby Giffords and federal judge John Roll were shot. John Roll was killed. He was the federal judge for the federal district of Arizona under the 9th district, which is the district that overturned this conviction. He actually had called an emergency on the southern border 1 week before he was killed. And this was all around the same time. There is a lot of tentacles that goes on in this particular case when it has relationship to the guns coming across, the border patrol, what they knew, the ATF. He had already been under death threat and had U.S. Marshals protecting him. I just think that it's odd that he was murdered as well, like literally 3 weeks later, and 1 week after he called that emergency. And like Trash was saying, because we had all of those drugs running through the southern border, there was also a big case that was going on down there at that time where a rancher had held, like, I don't know, 10, 15 illegals at gunpoint, telling them they couldn't cross into his property. It was one of the very first rancher illegal immigration, illegals cases for like any kind of bodily harm and things like that. I just would say that there's a lot more digging that needs to be done. But if you look back to the Gabby Giffords shooting in 2011, it was January 8th. It was literally 3 weeks after Brian Terry was killed, and again, all in the same Tucson sector, all down in the same area.
I think you're right. That role, I think he helped the judge that is doing Brian's case. She worked under him, Jennifer Zinn.
And may have. I didn't look that far into it, but I know that he was basically the judge down in Southern District of Arizona. And like I said, right after this happened, 3 weeks later, he's killed in a parking lot in Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah, very strange. Wow.
I see Carrie has her hand up.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to let y'all thank you for this information. This is all new to me, and I live in South Texas. I live in Corpus Christi. And I mean, I've already forwarded all the tweets to real President Trump. This is just all new to me. I didn't know any of this, and this is absurd. And we should get to the bottom of it. It looks like they just swept it away, like y'all said.
Well, I'm gonna make these comments before I go. I have to go help my wife and kids do some stuff today, but I want to just highlight this Fast and Furious issue and the need for it to be declassified and fully released to the public, because I think we should build off of what Trump actually just did. What was that, 2 days ago, with declassifying the JFK, RFK, MLK files. I know those are somewhat ancient, but a few months ago, I saw a video of Kash Patel talking about the potential plan of having a group of people in the Trump administration who do nothing but pump out previously held state secrets, like the mass declassification of documents and stuff that the government is up to. And I think this Fast and Furious issue, this Brian Terry tragedy, could be the impetus to really spark the administration, because I'm worried that it's not going to happen. I want to see, I'm so bullish on Kash Patel getting into the FBI director position. Look for that interview from him. You would have to find it, but he's talking about just basically a constant flow of declassified material and just having press conferences every day of like, look at this bullshit that happened. Look at this evil that happened. Look at this massive waste and death and poisoning that happened. And it plays into the utility and the purpose, I think, of this Trump administration. And that is to show the people that this massive leviathan of a government in DC has not been working for your interests, and it needs to be cut down. It needs to be defunded, minimized. It needs to be scattered in 1,000 pieces, and it plays to that. So I really want to see Kash Patel, Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, the whole crew start to release all the secrets that have been held from us that reveal that our government is just broken and it's evil and it's corrupt and it's not working for us. It's working against us. And I hope this is the impetus for that. With that said, I love you guys. To the Brian Terry family, my thoughts and prayers go out to you. I'll be following it. I'm going to switch to listener now, but I love you guys. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, JP. And interestingly, Jen just sent me something that speaks to exactly what JP was just saying. So in 2018, President Trump ordered the release of the Fast and Furious documents. I didn't know that.
What happened? Oh, well, look who he had for Attorney General, Barr, and he's Barr and Sessions. They weren't working with him, So
I think we can assume that what happened is the same thing that happened with the JFK files and these other files that President Trump had demanded be released, which is the bureaucracy, in order to protect itself, slow-walked and failed to obey like the commands that they were given to do this stuff. So the good news is that I think we're seeing that Donald Trump is not playing those fucking games this time. And so I really think this is going to be as simple as just getting attention to it.
Yes,
President Trump is in our circle, and once we accomplish that, I think we get the release that we've been calling for.
You know what? I pray, and I think you're 100% correct.
Couple quick updates.
Tim, jump in here.
Couple quick updates. Number one, Pete Hegseth and Kristi Noem have been confirmed.
Yes.
So they're in, number one. But number two, Tom Homan has come out and said he will arrest Katie Hobbs if she gets in the way of deportations. So I think in the vein of what Dustin's talking about is what I'm talking about here, is that the adults are actually taking over at this point. Like we're not playing these games. And I think that we can get this to the right people. And I think that once we get all settled and we get everybody in, I mean, February 3rd, that's close.
It's Monday, next Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, that's close. That we can start actually like exposing all of this. And from what I can tell, from what I'm hearing, and from the communications I'm having in the background, people are moving on this. So great job on the space, guys, by the way, because
yes, thank you.
They're hearing it. Now people are hearing it, not just like the 300 that are in here. I mean, like people are hearing it. They know what's going on here.
All right, Kim, I know you had your hand up. Hey, Ken, I've been doing some work in the background, and I have some people to get you on calls with and text with. So just look for that after this.
Okay, yeah, Jen, I got to thank you guys, both of you guys, everybody. Because if I didn't know about this space thing, I never got on until the other day when you told me about it. And if I knew this years ago or whenever it started, I would have jumped on it. But I appreciate everything you guys are doing and the legal advice and everything. I really do. It means a lot to me. And to me, you guys are a bunch of patriots.
Well,
So
welcome to Spaces.
Well, Welcome to Spaces, and I will just put a disclaimer out there. Nothing said in here was legal advice. You should consult your own attorney before making any
Yeah,
decisions.
well, the lawyers on board. I mean, they were talking. It made some sense to me that I never looked at. The stuff that they were saying. It's like, wow. But I just want to say thank you to everybody. So appreciate it. So
Well, we appreciate you,
Thanks,
Ken,
Ken.
and be warned though. Spaces are very addictive. All of the people that are on this stage right now can attest to that. I wanted to throw in there because this just kind of came across my feed. While President Trump is doing all this stuff down at the border, Walter Kurt put this out. The AG in California, Rob Bonta, is conducting a Know Your Rights tour and is really resisting President Trump's edict to, deport these guys. The AG told immigration activists that he will uphold SB 54, the law that prohibits local law enforcement from working with ICE officials. These people really can't read the room at all. So, I mean, it's happening on, in the Arizona front, on the California front. These guys are trying to push back, and it's like, we cannot allow this to continue.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kim. And yeah, Kim, I had to say that because like people in Spaces, there's the trolls and people take things out of
yeah, I understand
context
that.
and all that
I
good shit.
trust me, I get that part. So
Well, guys, if there's nobody else with their hand up, I haven't, Shay, you've been on stage. Did you want to say anything before I shut down? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
my condolences to the Brian Terry family.
thank you.
This is disturbing to me. This is freaking really disturbing to me. I had no idea. And the reason why it's more disturbing, my question is because of the resistance. And we're going through a mass deportation. How do you prevent, like the Fast and Furious case, developing again? Because I was told there's like 2 million bad guys, so to speak. And all of this is running through our community. And so now I feel like from the resistance from different states, I'm not feeling at ease. I'm not feeling that we are protected, we the people. And I want to know from somebody, like, what can we do? Who I mean, who's in charge of ICE now? Because it's like they're being allowed to run amok. And so this is going to be chaotic, and it's going to be chaos. So we as Americans need to know how to protect ourselves and what can we do legally. And then you're talking about gun control. They're passing policies, and we need to know what we need to do right now.
Well, Shay, what I will say is that we have done a 180 from where we were under Joe Biden just a couple weeks ago, from where we are now, where we have active deportations going on. We have President Trump actively signing executive orders on the border to get the military down there immediately to stop the flow. And then they are handling simultaneously the people who are already here. So I would just give President Trump and Tom Holman, who is in charge of ICE, which is the one of your questions, I would just give them a little bit of time. I mean, he's been on the job, 5 days? So, I mean, he's done more in 5 days than Joe Biden did in his whole presidency. So I would say just look to see what Donald Trump is doing, and then look to see what is going to happen with this case, because I really feel that these tentacles of the Eric Holder and the Justice Department really have traction. So that would be my answer. But I hope that answers your question, and thanks for being here, Shay. Appreciate you.
I was going to say, can we contact Tom Holman for people who really want to work in the communities on the ground level?
Oh, yeah. So there. Oh, does someone else want to answer that?
No, I was just humming. That's a good question. So
Yeah, so there's actually some states who are doing their own I don't know how to put this roundup, I guess.
I'm in New
And
York, so
they
I
are
need to find
asking.
out because I don't think our governor is on board.
Yeah, I'm originally from New York. My mother lives in New York. My whole family lives in New York, so I know exactly how you feel because I literally worry about them every day. So I don't really know how to answer that, and I don't know if I can answer that in this time space. And I have a bunch of
Okay,
calls I
thank
have
you.
to get Kent with. I'm sorry. Thanks, Shay. Zachary, I let you up. I saw you're an independent journalist, so I wanted to give you a chance to speak, and then I'm also going to let Kevin Smith
Yeah, it
up.
was Sally first, Jen.
Oh, sorry, Sally. Go ahead. I don't see hands, guys, so please don't.
Oh, you're fine. I'll make this really quick. I just been posting a bunch of stuff in the purple pill that may be helpful, maybe not. But I'm tagging you, Jennifer, and I will just, as I find stuff, I'll just come back to this space and put it underneath there. So if anyone wants to read up on any of this stuff with some resources, you guys can check it out.
Oh, and I just wanted to let
Awesome.
Shay know one of the things that you can do is make sure you change the battery in your smoke detector.
Somebody
Oh my
somebody
gosh.
just inboxed me the same thing.
You know, I walked over and checked mine because I heard it too a couple of times. I'm like, man, maybe my battery's low. It wasn't though.
Saving
Thank you.
lives. All right, you're welcome, Shay. Zachary, jump in here.
Hey, you know, we can have Kamala Harris arrested. What happened at the border? And we have her arrested. And because Joe Biden used her as a scapegoat for all this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
We can have Kamala Harris arrested, barred from even thinking about running for president ever again. And just take this to the top. Take it to the president of the United States, President Trump.
Without a doubt. So listen, Kent, first of all, I want to thank you for reaching out to us and putting your trust in us to put this together for you. And I want to give so much love to all of you guys, Lou and Trash and Randall and everybody who is already right, McCabe. We are already seeing the power of what we've been able to accomplish here on the backside with some stories that will be written and published and some outreach from people inside the administration. It's already happening. So within a couple of hours, the collective effort of everybody here, we're already able to get some motion and some activity surrounding this stuff so that we can help the Terry family go through this terrible ordeal. So JP and Doc and Sally and all of you guys, thank you so much. This is, it's really encouraging to know that we have a community that can gather and act as quickly as we were able to do around this. February 3rd is not far away. So we will keep on it and we will push on literally every possible avenue that we have to get justice for Brian Terry and full disclosure of Fast and Furious. If there's two things that we need to just keep saying, it's those two things: justice, Brian Terry, and disclosure on Fast and Furious. Go ahead, Jen.
Dust, I know you're busy, so if you have to drop, feel free. I did want to let Kevin go and Stan go. I got messages, so just wanted to let those people jump in real quick. So Kevin, go ahead. Okay, maybe Kevin's not there. If you come back, Kevin, just on mic. Stan, jump in here. Quick.
Yeah, so I've been doing some research on this. Stan McDaniel's running for Congress here to replace Matt Gaetz since his resignation. What you can do is you can reach out to your sheriff. ICE is going to be inundated with a lot of reports. You can go to ice.gov and report the immigrants that you know of. But we're going to need, this is going to be a massive undertaking. And while we do have the legislative branch coming together for a special session in Florida, the ICE can deputize your sheriff and his deputies to work with him, work with ICE to help with this illegal immigration problem. And this will help your community as well. It'll help get beds into the jails, and obviously your community get paid for that as well. And so I think this is going to be a win-win for everybody involved. But call your sheriff and this next week and tell him you want him to get involved in this process of rounding up these illegals and getting them home. ICE isn't going to be able to do this alone.
So I will say, just to present what's going on in the world surrounding this, there is a concerted effort by the left to attack people. It's like this whole thing going on TikTok right now and going after people who are willing to report the migrants. So if y'all get a bunch of hate and a bunch of bots like attacking your posts, or if you're talking about it, that is why. So don't feed the trolls, okay? Ignore them and just know that you're standing on the side of truth. But do know that the left that is what they are organizing around, is that people turning, other human beings into
Hey, Jen,
ice.
what's the
But
name of that
F
awful
them.
blonde lawyer chick that's always like giving the illegals ways to
Oh my God, don't even get me
What's her
started,
name?
Kim. I'm trying to close down the space. You want to get my blood boiling? This freaking blonde fucking bimbo.
What's her name?
Like, Kim, I don't even know. I don't even know. But she should be reported to ICE just for the sake of it. Anyways.
Kevin, are you back?
Kevin, you there? Giving you a chance. If not, Ken, it was wonderful to have you here. I'm so glad we were able to do this. I'll connect with you after the space. And if you just joined and you have no idea what's going on, look up Border Patrol agent Brian Terry, who was killed in 2010 by a illegal criminal alien who was a member of the Sinaloa cartel, who was armed with a Fast and Furious gun, who murdered Kent's brother, Brian Terry. And then after his murder, when the Terry family started to hear rumblings that it actually was a Fast and Furious gun that had murdered their brother, Eric Holder and the Justice Department went to them and tried to run interference. And then on the backside said that and Kent found this out through a FOIA request, that Eric Holder said that the Terry family should be wiretapped because he was a thorn in their side, or that they were a thorn in his side, and that they were asking too many questions. So this is what they're dealing with. The sentence has been overturned after 14 years, and a new court date is now set for February 3rd. And there isn't much media or attention surrounding this, and there needs to be, because there's definitely some connections to the Justice Department that needs to be exposed. So we are just asking people to get the story out there. There are tweets up in the nest from President Trump where he actually says it's the fifth tweet back, I believe. It says Fast and Furious. This is quoting President Trump. Fast and Furious directly resulted in the death of U.S. border agent Brian Terry. Period. Sad! Exclamation point. So we're asking people to go up and retweet that, bring attention to that tweet so it hits President Trump's account, so we can get President Trump and Tom Holman to declassify all of the documents surrounding Fast and Furious at a minimum, and then to see what we can do to help the Terry family, who I believe personally is getting bum rushed into a court date when there are severe violations from the US government that need to be exposed. So it's kind of just a brief overview before we leave. Kim, go ahead, but I'd really like to shut down. And Ken, thank you
Thank you,
so
Jen.
much for being here. I know it's really, really hard on you to have to do this, but we really hope that we're able to help. So
I
Kim,
just
go
wanted
ahead.
to remind everybody to repost the space. It is recorded. Also, give it a bookmark. That way you can go back and reference it, and you can get any of the posts that were put down in the chat bubble. It'll live there, so you can go back and reference anytime you need to. And thank you, Ken.
Also, if you just message me this, if you have a Truth Social account, please go tag President Trump over on Truth Social account about this case. Thank you. Anything else?
I wanted to say
Anybody?
thank you to Ken. Really appreciate you taking the time to come in and tell us about Brian's story, and really hope that we can move the needle here and get some justice.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And by the way, if you need a story out, let me know. I'll do my best.
I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all the speakers, everybody who did research and helped and gave facts, and a special thanks to, hold on, Paul, who came up and told his story about what he witnessed firsthand.
Oh, and Victor too.
Thanks to everybody. Sorry?
And Victor too.
Who? Oh, Victor. Yes, thank you. Guys, I'm going to forget somebody. You know I love you. And if you're mad at me, DM me, whatever. All right. Love
Thank you.
y'all. Share the space out.
God bless.
If you have any questions or if you have any information that you didn't feel comfortable sharing, you can feel free to DM me. I will keep the information private. Thank you. Love y'all. God bless. Find Jesus. Bye.